How's it going? It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank you guys for coming through. I want to thank Ty City once again for the sixth time in a row for going live with left wing topics, even though he voted for Trump and live in a red state. I want to thank him for going live earlier than me, slightly before my podcast again, and only before my podcast. Most of the time, he do talk about left wing topics. I want to thank him for doing that, and I want to thank all the people over there who would normally be over here, who is actually over there, listening to left wing content for a guy who lives in Texas. And his main issue as a libertarian was the Second Amendment. What Second Amendment issue that Trump actually dealt with when he was in office? Their answer: the Second Amendment has always been an issue for fucking idiots. There's nothing wrong with the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was meant to give rise to a standing army in a time of peace. That's what the actual Second Amendment started off as. Over time, it turned into an actual issue of personal protection, which that was not part of the Second Amendment. And any person who's ever been part of the United States military who tried to tell you that the Second Amendment means that you can overthrow the government, they are lying to you. And actually, this is the time where the Second Amendment, their version of the Second Amendment, this is the time where you should be trying to do that shit. By having a billionaire in charge of the government walking in and shutting down federal institutions that's been there since the Republic started. Their version of the Second Amendment is when they would actually be doing these things. They actually used their actual version of the Second Amendment on January 6th. Their version of the Second Amendment would mean if we don't like what's going on, if we don't like the election, we can just run in here and just shut things down. But that's not the Second Amendment. And if you in Texas, Ty City, take your ass outside and open fucking carry, and why don't you see how fast they lock your motherfucking ass up? Any black person anywhere in the country, you take your ass outside and open fucking carry, they're going to lock your motherfucking ass up. Second Amendment or no, right? It's not even a real issue. Just like transgender is not a real fucking issue. Just like Mexicans being here, you don't even know they speak Spanish. You're too stupid to speak another language. Again, all these issues are fake fucking issues. But tonight is reserved for Rael. Now, people who live in the South are very special individuals, especially the black individuals who don't have a side pick. The South has the most straightforward history, more than any part of the country. Maybe the New West, but definitely the South. The South has a history that is so fucking straightforward. You can literally track when the South in general was an actual threat to black people. Wide open threat. We're talking about before even the Civil War. And you can track that shit nearly to like 64, 65, talked about in 63, when black people got the equal right to actually participate in the process across the country, because they were systematically making sure that black people could not participate in the actual process or participating in the elections through various means. That's why they had to come up with the civil rights legislation. So that way people can actually equally participate in the actual process itself. Right? So if you are a black motherfucker and you live in the South and you don't participate in the political process, you are a piece of shit. That's right. You are a piece of shit. Georgia, Florida, North and South Carolina, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, parts of fucking Maryland, There is no fucking reason for you not to know American history as a black person. And I've heard Rael say many times that he would never vote for a Democrat, which is fine. But you gotta provide a pathway towards the government treats you with equal protection under the law and everything else outside of before you had the actual legal right to vote. Not just being a citizen. Being a citizen was fine as long as your ass didn't have any say. But they had systematic ways of actually making sure that your ass didn't vote. And that's why the actual civil rights movement happened. And all these people complaining about boomers, you know who you are. These people with more information, they became worse than boomers, by the way. Worse than boomers. They seen the outcomes and they did worse than what boomers did. These are the people who actually said that if there was passed down a more perfect union, like if the boomers, not the boomers, if the silent generation did all the work, these Gen X, millennials, they would be a better steward of the things that was passed down. You didn't need to have the whole thing completed in order for you to participate in the process. There was work that was still that needed to be done. A lot of work that needed to be done. And if you track the trajectory, like if you learn history, I know I knew American history, 7th grade, where at least in the Mississippi Delta, they beat inside your fucking head. Who was responsible for where we are in this state? It was an editorial decision, which I didn't know it was an editorial decision that could be made by the Washington County School District, which is the county that I was born in. I didn't know that it was an editorial decision to actually teach history until I got far older and got up out of that situation. And I ran into this situation when I was in the military, where somebody told me that this person who lived in this part of Mississippi doesn't have the same historical context or understanding of the process about politics that you do, and you both live in the same state. I did not know that. A white guy had to point that shit out to me. And then he had to fucking demonstrate it because I didn't believe him. I did not believe that this guy who was born in Philadelphia, Mississippi, was never taught about Jefferson Davis, was never taught about the history of how Mississippi even got into the Civil War. This dude didn't even know that Jefferson Davis was the president of the fucking Confederacy. This person didn't know any of that shit. And so once I watched this display of a guy who was from, actually he was from New York. He was from New York, and he was demonstrating to me as another person from the South that you guys from the South, you guys are taught very different shit in school. I did not know that until it was demonstrated to me. My mother never talked about it. Father never talked about it. Grandfather kind of hit on it, but never ran into it until I left the South and actually went into the military. That's where you find all these patriotic individuals who's actually in the military who don't even believe in equal protection under the law. These people are from the South. Some of them got kicked out of the military before in actually MEPS, that is the Military Interest Processing Center. They would show up with Confederate tattoos and Confederate names written on them. And the actual person would be like, hey man, you can't join our group. Because you got down on you. And they was like, not only am I not going to care about the institution that I'm joining, I'm not going to care about the history of the institution that I'm joining either. And that's where we're at now. It is a very specific group of people in a very specific area of the country who named military installations after Confederate generals and Confederate personnel. Very specific, not generalized, incredibly specific. We even had people in this space who tried to challenge what the Civil War was based on. They said the Civil War was based on tariffs, miscited some books and everything else. But when you're talking to a bunch of dumb motherfuckers, purposefully dumb, who don't know how anything works, and they believe in the idea that I'm just going to hold my vote hostage and live in the South, and somehow I'm going to get better outcomes for the people who actually live in liberal areas across the country, that's just a farce. If you don't participate, you have no expectation of actual progress itself. What's going to go?
Hey, MOT, how you doing? you, you hit it right on the head right there. Right on the head.
Yeah, what's going, Mike?
Hey, what's going on, man?
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a couple of tapes here because when you go from being in the Black Brain Trust and you step off and do your own thing, most people just disappear from YouTube altogether. There's many people who file in and out of the Black Brain Trust, but no one has went from the Black Brain Trust to joining Team Dumb Nigga. Like that has never happened. Like no one has went from the Black Brain Trust and joined Team Troll. Like no one has really done that from the Black Brain. Somebody got some background. Maybe that's not going. Yeah, but no one has really done that. And you have to understand that during this space, there are two different Black manospheres. There's Black manosphere for progress, and then there's Black manosphere for trolling women in stagnation. We're obviously part of the part who want to move things forward, correct? And there are people who can't even cover politics without playing a Black woman on screen and then trying to respond to it as if they're doing actual political commentary because they have to run an actual parody of information that's actually out here and they have to like kind of translate it into dumb nigga and try to do the same thing that we do, right? But all these people live in liberal areas. Like I don't know anybody in this space who actually live in a conservative area and talk this conservative shit. I just don't know. I have never seen it. Have you seen it, Mike? Come out. I live in a totally conservative area in a conservative state. I totally own it, and I'm a Republican. Never heard of it.
Well, with the exception of a few people in the space, maybe let's use Nick. I forget his
No, no,
last
no,
name.
Nick, no, no, no. Nick,
Nate.
Nick Taylor's is
Yeah.
is a different and a special case. I'm not talking about Nick Taylor.
Okay.
Nick Taylor lives where he lives. It makes
Mhm.
totally sense why he's conservative. He get a ton of shit from the fucking government in that area. He actually has worked his way into that. His family has worked his way into that position. That's a totally different situation than most of these people who claim to be conservative, whose family have not put in that work.
Okay. Well, to answer your question, I don't know then.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's nobody. There's nobody. Go, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Yeah, as far as do I know anyone who was doing that? No, not at all. I see a lot of people running around liberal states, got all the liberal goods, talking some BS conservative stuff, and I find it laughable, laughable, laughable. Um, so I have to say,
Yeah, you kind of went dark there. You're gone. Yeah, but this is what we're talking about. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over a couple things. Because if you are in the South, you don't have a right to say that you would never vote for a Democrat. Okay? And that's fine. But there's only two sides here. There's the conservative movement that has done everything to black people in the South. And there's the liberal movement that has never had power in the South, none whatsoever. Okay? So when you say that you're never going to vote for a Democrat, that's fine. But you better get your motherfucking ass out there and be organizing for the conservative party when you are actually living in a conservative state. Because most of these black individuals who live in these conservative areas, conservative state ran areas in the South, they don't know how normal society works once they leave. Once you leave, you actually have to produce, you actually have to show up, you actually have to organize, you have to participate, you have to invest, you have to do all that shit. But anybody can literally live in the South, be barely fucking productive, and be better than like 90% in the actual area. Because most people are apathized to the point to where they don't even try, they're not even productive, they can't even make no money, none whatsoever, and they're just domesticated pets for the most part, made by their parents in the actual area. And a lot of people don't understand is that the South is the way that it is. It's because of conservative politics from the 1800s. And they don't want to actually participate in the government itself, which has actually been spread across the actual United States. And them systematically getting rid of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, which is their gains in society.
Well, all those are holdovers from the Civil War. That's the lost cause movement, and that's the whole South shall rise again, and all of that. That's still the some post, um, I don't know, trauma, however you want to look at it, from that of the Confederacy of losing the war. But yet, they still continued that war now politically after, and this is what these states certainly have have been, if you want to call it, the beneficiaries or the lack of beneficiaries of, and you see how they run, fundamentally welfare states that are being covered by the blue states and other states that are helping to pay their bills.
Yeah. Uh, Resume the actual same internet that you use to click on StreamYard to be a part of this link. You can Google who that person is. So let's keep going. So what we're going to do is we're just going to play one of these clips and we're going to actually respond to it. So let's look at this video file. This is 001. Hold on a second while I pull this up. We're going to stop this at different points to actually respond to it, so that way we could be able to see what's actually going on. Because when you say that you don't want to participate in the political process, you actually don't have an actual purpose of actually even wanting any type of success in society. And this is just to put it all on the tape. Like I pretty much destroyed the 18-point agenda. It's never been talked about by anybody here. Nobody's talking about black boys or anything else. And I tend to do this with people who don't want to participate in the process. So let's go.
Yeah,
has been
that's true.
up 500%.
Wow. Wow.
But let me go on and play this clip.
No. There's something else though with respect to Amy Close.
Okay, so before we go into this, these individuals think that they're doing the same thing that we're doing by just playing black women on screen talking, and then they actually respond to what she says out of context. At the end of the day, the politics is just not black women. It's a lot of people who's part of the Democratic actual establishment. It's probably the most robust group of people. If you look at the DNC versus the RNC, it's a lot more actual representative of America than actually the actual RNC. But these people are conservatives, but they all live in liberal states. Any comments before we go forward?
No, let it rip.
All right.
Let rip,
Bashar, I
MLB.
actually don't think Democrats give a shit about Black people and care about those kind of pressure campaigns, because Black people specifically are always going to vote for Democrats. So the way that a Black woman asking for something from the Democratic Party means less than the dog crap on the bottom of my sneaker cannot be emphasized enough. Like Black women, there's no planet. If I were running for president, truly the last, apart from like having my own values, the way that the last call that I would answer would have to be a Black woman's call, as long as they insist on voting hook, line, and sinker for Democrats no matter what. If that's just the way leverage works. And
She's so fine.
Like I said, leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage. What's that chick's name?
Breonna Joy.
Right. Oh, okay.
Hey, stop it right there, MOT. Stop it right there, MOT. Now you heard what AV Media said. Damn, she's so fine. Right? So this is why you're playing her, not because you care about what she has to say, but because you like the way she looks. Involuntarily celibate.
Yeah.
And she would give that Joker she would give him a second look, man.
Right. Right. But you can go ahead, MOT. I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard that he likes the way she looks.
And what she's actually saying. And what's the actual chances that she probably live in a liberal state, liberal area in a red state, or even a blue state? Okay.
New York,
right.
man.
Okay. I don't know who these people are. I think they're all grifters, but at the end of the day, they're always living around some liberal shit, but they seem to be so conservative. And this guy actually lives in Indianapolis. There are plenty conservative areas in Indiana. You don't have to live in Indianapolis. But let's keep going.
Campaign manager.
Yeah.
I think she's in her
The
mid-30s.
first time.
She's in her mid-30s. She's always been hot, but them kind of chicks you kind of have to leave alone. She's a feminist, but I agree with her sometimes.
Yeah, I mean she makes some salient points sometimes. But yeah, man, like I was just saying, man, the leverage, man. I keep saying this over and over again. I noticed the culture war stuff has a lot of people distracted, but your vote
do tell, sir,
is supposed to translate into money.
Yeah.
Whether it's you saving money, you get money saved, money increased, or money not taken from you. Like votes are supposed to translate to money, not your feelings, man. Like
what does that even mean? Votes are supposed to translate into money. Remember, you live in the South, an area that doesn't vote for the Democratic Party. How is it that votes equal money? That's a Republican mantra. The Republicans actually believe the government works for you when you fucking pay for it. And only when you pay for it. And exclusively when you pay for
it. What's interesting about that statement is that what about all those farmers during the first administration and how they turned out? A lot of those farmers went out of business. They're still out of business to this very day.
Not a single farm that I've driven past in I-70 from Illinois to fucking Ohio has the same ownership that it had during the Trump administration. Every single one of those people who own those farms lost those fucking farms if they did not plant on that soil during the actual Trump administration.
And to your point, MOT, U.S. aid was subsidizing those farmers.
Yes, they were.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, and what about the black farmers? What about them?
Yes.
How did that impact them? He's about you go to get that money. Think about it. These guys.
But at the end of the day, the only way you can maintain this level of ignorance is that if you do not have historical relevance about what you're actually talking about. And he's talking about the culture war, but actually not understanding history itself is a culture war within itself among black people. The moment you start talking about history, they try to use some conversation stopper or humiliation tactic to make it look like we shouldn't even be talking about that.
No, and when it came down to black farmers, They screwed black farmers over. And in fact, it was the Biden administration that got the black farmers compensated.
Yes, they did.
So all the talk about your vote is supposed to lead to money as an outcome, that didn't work for white farmers under Trump. They got torn out the frame. But it wasn't until Biden came into office that black farmers got their just due. But nobody wants to talk about that, because nobody wants to talk about when black farmers had to sue to get their compensation, because the white farmers were getting theirs. It was the Republican Party that was blocking it. Remember, it was J.D. Vance, not J.D. Vance, John Kennedy, Louisiana, Lindsey Graham, and Mitch McConnell, and the rest of the MAGA caucus at the time that was in office, in the House and the Senate, both sectors on the Hill basically said no go.
Yeah.
So the idea that your vote is supposed to lead to a financial outcome, I think that's a bit of a dubious statement.
And here's the other thing that people don't understand: that there's no farm bill. The farm bill is for farmers, and Medicaid is a subsidy for farmers. It is for farmers. At the end of the day, most people can't even run their farm for profit without federal dollars. They can't upgrade their equipment on site without federal subsidies. Like when they start cutting those subsidies out, you start seeing a lot of complaints. Why? You start seeing the actual ants below the dirt pile. They wasn't going out there buying that equipment every single year. They was given tax credits and breaks in order to do that. And black farmers wasn't even part of that system. And these people got this stuff every single year. But people want to claim that they would never vote for a Democrat, which means that you see the entire political spectrum, the people who don't care about you at all within the same areas to which they run the state and local government outside of huge liberal cities. Doesn't make any sense. Go.
No, you hear like him and others sitting here saying, "Oh, it's the now they're cutting you loose. Now you can get loose to the federal government. Now something open up, and it start opening up all your own businesses and doing all this and doing all." What, do you understand how the federal government has worked with and expanded the business of all of these people across the board? White
When you
folks
put
as well.
people like Loeffner in charge of the SBA, you really think that you're going to get an SBA line of credit or a redo on your actual loan if she's the person in charge of it? It's like when you don't participate in the process in your area, you don't get to tell functional areas in the United States how things work. You just don't. If you live in the South, your opinion don't matter when it comes to politics. Produce a fucking congressperson, because we know you're not going to produce a fucking senator, not state, neither federal. We know you're not going to produce an actual anything else in the area, but all these people want to disengage from the actual process, but they get used to just complaining about shit whenever their non-participation isn't going to actually score any points. But let's keep going. Hold on. Let me turn that back up.
Voting for like to be feeling good, like this is high school and you at a pet rally. Like, no, like it's supposed to translate to money. So if it's not translating into money, what the hell you voting for? You're literally not getting, like, they're getting money because they in there. Obviously, they stealing a lot of the money that's in there, as we've been seeing so far. So, but it's literally supposed to translate into something tangible that can add to your pocket. So I just think that a lot of these people, man, like they haven't delivered, man. Black leadership just has not delivered for black people.
They deliver in areas to which they have the majority of the stake in it. They don't deliver in the South is because they don't have the majority of stake in the South. You have to understand that most of these other states have actually been doing things for the rest of you guys when you guys haven't really produced shit on the federal level. That's the way it used to work. Now, this MAGA shit is kind of everywhere, and now the things that they used to get or were accustomed to getting, it's not even a part of what the shit's happening right now. And that is their fault. We got people who don't even know that they're part of a Russian conspiracy. They're against the United States interest historically, but anything to be a part of this MAGA movement. While you associate yourself with them, they don't associate themselves with you. And they never have. So they want to take functional parts of society and scapegoat those people into, well, you know what? Well, you know what? Voting is supposed to equal money. No, it equals money in the areas that you live in. It doesn't really matter if you don't produce anybody who represents you locally. Mike, can I go on before I go forward?
Nope, that's bottom line. Go ahead.
Man, for 100+ years.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just the reality of the situation. I know people don't want to really hear that because, like, nobody wants to admit that our leadership structure has basically
failed.
sold us out for 100+ years.
The fuck you mean our? There is no our here. You live in the South. You're not a part of the process. It takes most of the majority of the rest of the country to take up for you sorry motherfuckers down there who don't participate in the process. What state have you lived in the majority of the time? Southern fucking states. Southern states haven't not produced anything for the most part for black people. They can't. By very number, they can't.
But that's true. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And you can't
actually,
avoid
MOT, just stop it
many
right
of these
there
people
real quickly. Because there's this narrative that, you know, black leaders equal voting for the last 100 years. Black people didn't get the Voting Rights Act passed until 65. So the numbers are not, the math isn't mathing. That's number one. But number two, it was Senator Ed Brooks, who was the first black man to be elected to the Senate since Reconstruction in Massachusetts, a very left-leaning state. So the idea that, you know, black leaders haven't produced anything, I don't know where you're getting this narrative from, but Atlanta's, you know, whole thriving economic system came from black leaders. So did Washington, D.C. That's why they call it Chocolate City and whatnot, right? Same thing in Detroit. So I don't know where this narrative comes from that black leaders haven't produced anything when your most thriving black communities over the last 30 years have come out of left-leaning black leadership run cities. I don't get the narrative. I don't know where this 100 years comes from because there's no evidence to support this.
I mean, you have 3 different liberal states here represented. I was born and raised in Mississippi, so you can't pull this wool over my eyes. Nagone lives in New York. Mike lives in Massachusetts. There's no way in the hell that you can have somebody who lived in the South their entire life talking this bullshit. But at the end of the day, they can do it. It's because living in the South is kind of the same as not knowing anything about politics outside of the South. They expect for people to understand and learn their struggles, and they expect for everybody to put in on them, even though they don't have a side pick and they don't organize for that shit. And that's not how politics work. And the reason why we're doing this is because how we destroyed the 18-point agenda, the DEI agenda that the actual conservatives would never go for. It's important to make these people come out here and tell us what their plan is for progress. And you strike hard as shit when the conservatives are in office. Because a lot of these people are very much okay with conservatives going upside the head of black people. Because they're here to maintain the status quo that white America sets up. That's what these pro-blacks are doing. So let's keep going.
Are connected to elite families and stuff like that. And they'll talk black in public, but when they're in those rooms making deals, man, they're making deals on behalf of their own individual families and not black people as a whole. And then they come out here and they try to tell you that, hey, everything is
as they're supposed to. I believe in the boule. I believe in locking dumb niggas out of everything. I believe in that shit. You live in a shithole that don't fucking produce anything. People in other functional societies ain't supposed to just do shit for you because you're fucking black. Fuck that. You want to live down in those fucked up conditions? Guess what? You better start putting some shit on the fucking table for your own people, because it definitely ain't gonna be people from my state or Nagon state or even Mike's state who's gonna fucking help you with your shit. We voted for the Affordable Care Act. Okay? We don't have a problem with that shit. Ohio just took part of the Affordable Care Act through fiat from a bunch of motherfuckers in Ohio. At the end of the day, how the fuck is we in liberal areas in liberal states supposed to cover for people who live in conservative, who live in liberal areas under conservative leadership? But they keep conflating the two because these people don't know the basics about how politics work. And we've been here 3 different election cycles, and people are still pretending like it's fucking day one. There's no excuse for that type of behavior. To go.
Absolutely. that's absolute. No progress, even from the standpoint of understanding and getting a greater grasp on what we're talking about here. No movement forward. Stay where you are, if not regress a bit. That's what we've seen. That's exactly what we've seen. No progress whatsoever. Why is that? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. But anyway, go ahead.
Is good. As long as you vote for these people, it's great. And if you see a token Negro in a position, it's supposed to make you feel good and make you think everything is okay. That's why Obama was such a lauded person, because it's like, man, you saw a quote unquote black person in the highest position in the land.
Yeah.
But then after he gets out of office, after he gets money, after he gets comfortable and all those types of things, what is he? He came with the condescending tone, trying to tell you like, oh, y'all lucky Michelle ain't here. Like, man, like, come on, man. Like, that's your wife. Like, if she did what you like that, that's because you let her. Like, they ain't got nothing to do with us. So I just think that overall, man, like, there is a lot of explaining that black leadership has to do to black people for what they've done to black people for the last 100+ years.
Okay, there's a other side of this black leadership shit. It's white people, conservatives, the people that you let off the hook for everything. That's the other side you're talking about here. You don't want to hold them responsible for none of the shit that they've ever fucking done, but you expect for black people in these black functional areas to overcompensate for the shit that you chose to live in. That's not my problem. I'm from Mississippi. I'm from the Mississippi Delta. The fucking politics have been fucked up since I was there and before I was there. And guess what? I had to get my ass out of that situation. And I go back, it's the same as it is now. And you can't really mess with people who are infected with that southern fucking bullshit. Because what they do is they come in with absolute fucking sabotage. Because a working society goes against their actual best interest. It does. Let's keep going.
And that's a very difficult conversation to have, especially like if you are a part of that that crooked game that black people have been, propagandized into believing is real when it's not really real at all.
Yeah.
Well, I think the issue is.
Hold on, wait, McDonald. And look, I tried with Kamala. I watched as much of her interviews as I possibly could. I just didn't see somebody qualified to be president. I tried.
But you looked at J.D. Vance and you thought he should be vice president.
Unbelievable.
And you live in Indiana. You looked over.
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
90 miles away. 90 miles away and see a guy who was a first-time senator. You see all types of qualifications there, but you didn't see a person who's been in government her whole fucking life as being qualified. I don't know. Take it away, man.
No, that's such an excellent point, because what's the litmus test for being qualified for POTUS? Because on one hand, based on this campaign, the campaign from November, you had one candidate that had a black male agenda, and you had another candidate that had an anti-DEI agenda.
Yes.
Which included black men. Because go back to the summertime, and even before the summer, when the Key Bridge fell down, due to the container ship crashing into it, it was Trump who called Governor Westmore a DEI governor, a DEI official, and called brother Mayor Kasim in Baltimore a DEI mayor. And then he called Kamala a DEI candidate. So this idea that, you didn't see any qualifications in her, someone who was duly elected in her own state as a senator and also duly elected as an attorney general, it was also a prosecutor. You didn't see any value there, but you saw value in a guy who was wearing eyeliner and only been in office since 2022. Like I don't understand this. A hillbilly elegy that makes him qualified? Well, he served in the military. Did he really?
A guy who was a Marine combat correspondent. Like I can't look at
Marine combat correspondent MOT is no different than Upham.
bro.
And Saving Private Ryan.
Listen, man. They don't even have shit like that in the Air Force, man. I'm pretty sure they do, but I would not be calling out other people's fucking service, man. If you was a Marine combat correspondent, bro, like you really got to stop this shit, man.
Yeah.
God, you got to stop this.
Anybody who's seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, would understand who Upham is. Upham was the guy who had the bandolier and was the messenger guy, the journalist guy. Okay.
Yeah, man. Upham Itmore, man. That's what he was, man.
Upham Media. But the thing here is, he served in the military too. But I don't think that you would put Upham next to like Eisenhower and be like, you think he's a qualified candidate? Like the stuff that gets said in these on these streams is ridiculous. I don't get it.
I mean, but this guy is actually be like, you know what? He's a good candidate because he doesn't represent my interests, and that's what a good candidate is to these Dans, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't trade MVD, but he was spot on with these Dans.
Man, I try to watch those interviews objectively, but she couldn't answer a question, and a lot of times it just came out as word salad.
You see, facts are word salad to stupid ass fucking people, man. Like if it's not trolling, if it's not roasting, dumb niggas cannot understand what the fuck you're talking about.
That is a fact.
I mean, because it has to be a noun and a verb and not on fucking topic or subject in order for these dudes to listen to it. And it's such a problem because these are the individuals who play a black woman on screen and the first words out of his mouth is, "She's so fine." What the fuck does that have to do with the substance?
And the thing here is, MOT, word salad is defined by, having incoherent speech and, not making any sense. I don't know where they're getting this from because she's been on message. She was on message the whole time. And I'm not advocating for her. I'm just saying the argument is that she was sounding incoherent. Really? She had the same stump speech everywhere she went, so she didn't really change up her content or her speech. So where did the incoherent speech come from? I'm not necessarily following that.
I mean, man, but we deal with Dans. Anything that come out of their mouth is gospel. Let's keep going.
Yeah, with ranch dressing or whatever dressing you choose to have. But go ahead, Big Drama Bear.
Well, sort of to respond to what you're saying, everybody knew she wasn't qualified. She knew she wasn't qualified. She knew she wasn't going to win. Everyone knew it wasn't possible. And the implications of if she could.
Everybody knew after the vote count. Nobody had any prediction live streams before the vote count.
No map analysis.
Nope, nothing. Everybody came in off the top rope once the vote came in, and the vote came in awful quick, even though it took until December, the last time around, for the votes to actually come in. But this time, the shit happened overnight. Okay.
No, but the thing here is, I asked the question again. What's the qualifications? People don't understand this. This guy tried to overthrow his own government to stop electoral process from happening and tried to get his own vice president whacked. Think long and hard about that, about those conditions, and then place that against her. What's the litmus test for being a president? Your own Ace Boone Coon, your vice president, you try to get him whacked. You try to stop electoral process. You destroyed your own economy by having a trade war, with China, and put your own people out of business, your own voters, your own flyover states that you won, you put them out of business. How is that? What's the qualifications then? I'm not understanding this.
Yeah.
They have none. They have none except, from what I see, qualifications. Of course, you got to be against a black female. Okay, we get that, and you have to be a white boy, because at the end of the day, these people are embracing. They're embracing them, and they apparently their ice is colder. That's where. I mean, I can't make any sense. I mean, they've never come up with any with any kind of standards as to what makes someone qualified and not. We looked at people who've been immensely more qualified, and they've looked at these people and said that they're not. I don't know what more to tell you on that, except when I look at it, I have to say it's got to be on some kind of racial line. That I think that's playing a big role. I hate to have to put it that, but go ahead.
No. I just wanted to address the comment that was made in the chat by Dorian, because he says certain networks were predicting it be a close race. It turned out to be the opposite. But what are you talking about? She lost by 1.5%. Yeah. Anything that's between 0 and 1.5% is pretty close.
Yeah.
She lost by 30,000 votes in Wisconsin, I think. That's pretty close. Okay. You're talking about she lost by what, 150,000 in Georgia, which had a 750,000 voting constituency down there. So she lost pretty close in a lot of the key battleground states. Now, I understand that people look at the map and they see that it's red and they say, oh, it was a blowout. You got to look at the data. The data is what matters, not the the colored screen that you're looking at. Don't just look at the memes and the sound bites. You gotta look at the actual data, and the data tells you that it was pretty close across the board. And she even she acknowledged it was going to be close. Trump didn't understand whether or not it was going to be close. The data at the end of the day, after it was tabulated, showed that it was very, very close. And with the exception of maybe Arizona, she did pretty well against him. Now, I'm not saying that you should go out or anybody should have went out and voted for her. I'm saying the data matters.
And when you look at the overall vote, popular vote, and you just look at how the vote came down, Trump did not get over 50%. Yep. And it was 49.8 to 49.1 or whatever. That's where it was. He didn't get over 50% of the vote. So she was within a point of him in that race. That's where she was. So this blowout and this, okay, when I playing horseshoes, fair enough. Hey, a win is a win is a win is a win. That's how you got to play it. That's how you got to play that. We agree. But when we start to break down the data and we look at it, what does it really say? And so how does that portend to how this will look maybe the next time coming around, if certain things are done, better.
They hurt way too many different vast groups of people quickly in order for this stuff to be close in 2028. I'm sorry. Yeah. Way too many vast groups of people hurt quickly, but we can't talk about those type of issues because these people just because we're black, our vote should count more. Just because there's black people in office, all our issues are supposed to be resolved. None of that stuff, Matt. And you live in the South where you say you're never going to vote for a Democrat. So you have got to be exclusively worried about what the conservatives or the Republicans are doing. You should never find yourself talking about a Democrat. Once those words escape your mouth and you've been a lifelong Southerner living under that rule for that longer period of time, you have no right to be talking about anything happening in any other successful group in this country.
In 3 months win a presidential campaign, I mean, that breaks the whole system, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's like, do you even really need the 2 years or whatever? The 2 years you're supposed to be going and seeing the different factions and groups and kissing babies. Like, it takes that amount of time.
Oh, this is after the actual vote count, by the way. There was no analysis about this before the vote count was counted. All this stuff is after the vote count came in. Again, no channels, no analysis, no maps, no nothing. Trust me, if you had a map of this type of prediction, you would probably be a billionaire because there were bets that you could have placed on your actual map if you actually believed in it that much. The odds maker had it at a dead heat. That's betting markets in Vegas.
Alan Keyes had a had an analysis as well, and his analysis turned out to be wrong too. And so the idea that it was it was going to be a blowout, that's not necessarily true. Your historians like Alan Keyes, Greg Palast, folks were making their predictions based on historic information and actual tabulations of previous election cycles. And nobody saw that she was going to lose by a tremendous amount, but the 1.5% is pretty significant to understand that the race was very close, and she did this in 103 days. Trump had been running since he had lost the election in 2020, so he had 4-year head start.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
He was definitely running and preparing. So as far as what we saw in 103 days, just a little over 3 months, we hadn't seen that before. So a lot of people say, "Oh, she did a terrible race." Is that right? Is that really true? So you had to really look at that, and when you start to break it down, then some people just fall back and don't have a whole lot to say after that. But it is what it is. It was what it was, and and we'll be going into a new cycle. But that race was significant, and it wasn't a blowout from the standpoint of she was landslid. Okay, certainly you have to win the electoral college to win, and President Trump did that. So
look, he won the popular vote too. So and these working class people or people who used to be working class let go from the government actually thought this stuff was gonna be fine. Turned out it ain't gonna be fine. Let's keep going.
Like, it takes that amount of time for people to learn about a candidate, right? So she was never a real candidate, and I think the real issue is, and this is what I was going to originally say, and I'll tie it all together, is that we as Americans don't know how to really do politics and understand. Like, you're supposed to get something like Rael said, you're supposed to get some type.
No, nigga, you don't know how to do politics. Man, that's your understanding of politics. Is we're supposed to get something. Who the fuck is we? The actual person who was going to give you the most didn't win. And you're trying to pretend like you predicted that the other guy was going to win, who is definitely not giving you shit. Right? So it's like, I don't understand these after the vote count dudes who know, historically speaking, and actually there's no analysis about these actual executive orders. Not by none of these grifters. None of them are talking about these executive orders. They just pretend like it never even happened. Let's keep going.
A monetary. You're supposed to get something tangible.
Yeah, you're supposed to get something
for
out
politics. It's not supposed to be a.
AB Media lives in Indianapolis. How the fuck is people voting liberal everywhere else in the country supposed to help out Indiana? It ain't supposed to.
Place where you do morals or emotions, or at least those are secondary
Mm-hmm.
to you getting the stuff, right? The whole reason we have a country and we have all of these values and morals is so that way we can live and eat and breathe and survive, right? If we aren't living and breathing, surviving, and we're just under tyranny, there is no point in all the morals, right? Because they clearly failed us.
Right.
Because clearly they failed us if we're losing. And I think
What fucking tyranny are you talking about? The tyranny is now. The tyranny was not under Biden, bro. They didn't threaten to get rid of the actual apparatus that kept the discrimination laws off the books. That shit's happening now. It wasn't happening under Biden. And it's crazy how these ignorant motherfuckers can come out here and say this mouth breathing, mirror fogging bullshit. Like they just said some clearly woke shit. It's like, dude, all the stuff you're afraid of is happening now, right now, under conservative rule. We tried to tell you to take a side. We tried to tell you to learn history so that way you wouldn't be in this position. But at the end of the day, these personnel want to be here in this position that they claim that they didn't want, but somehow trying to celebrate or take responsibility for it. It doesn't make any sense. You know?
It makes no sense at all. And they're not here looking for any advancement or looking even talking about interests. Their interests are on the side of what I would consider my enemy.
Yeah.
That's what their interests are. They've sided with them. They've sided with them. Why they have done so and what do they think they're going to get out of it? I can't tell you clearly. I have no idea. It's to what that's all about. But you can see they're not going to get anything specifically out of this whatsoever. In fact, they're going to lose quite a bit. So you have to ask them, what is your benefit?
Whites are losing quite a bit.
I mean, people are losing. People are losing across the board. Yes, many whites are. So, where is your benefit with this? What is this all about? I mean, I saw that that display they had at the White House for Black History Month with those Negroes there and talking crazy, and it's unbelievable. I mean, if you are supposed to get something out of this, please tell me what net gains were made through this.
Spiritual Logic Hulk is right. The whole point of Doge is to remove, like Trump fired all the inspector generals, the actual people whose job it was to find fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. He fired those people within the first week. And then he replaced it with the Department of Government Efficiency. And then he didn't even audit the Defense Department. And what he thought that he was going to do was start removing these non-career federal employees from their job, most of which were white men who were disabled veterans, right? And didn't understand or realize and didn't even care about none of that stuff. And it's like, this guy is a defense contractor who receives a lot of money from the government, walking into institutions, shutting them down, claiming he's saving more money for the government. And these idiots thought that they was going to get a $5,000 check out of it. I'm like, dude, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, they're literally trying to make or take responsibility for things that they're not even responsible for nor understand.
And at the same time, he's doing multi-billion-dollar business with the government.
Same government.
Same government.
But he's not cutting the defense budget. Go ahead, Mike.
Conflict of interest much?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we've got going on. Go ahead.
Fraud requires an investigation to determine whether it's fraud or not. But the waste and abuse, I would think that is coming from this guy. Bringing in rogue people and not being transparent about what it is that they're doing.
Lying about what they've done. About what they've done.
Yeah.
Unreal.
That's sort of the mindset that a lot of Black people don't sort of understand is we are like the Detroit Lions have always been, or the Browns have always been, or name whatever crappy team, right? And this is a good analogy. It's like when you have a crappy team, the Jaguars, and when you have a crappy team, like what did the Lions have to do to turn things around? It's like you had to get a new coach. You had to have a coach that's going to change the philosophy. He's got to be a little bit different, right? People were sort of laughing at him because he was crying. They're not laughing at him anymore, is he? Are they? Like, he's done the impossible for that team. That was the worst team ever, right? And I'm using that as an analogy of like the way we do things. We have to like throw out the playbook completely and draw up a whole new playbook. We need to fire all.
Okay. So we're just going to forget about the history. We're going to throw out the entire playbook about politics. Okay. The conservative movement was very upfront about what they thought about black people over the years since before the Civil War. But these people didn't see that when they were talking about transgendered and actual Mexicans. They were actually talking about your ass too. They actually was talking about those disabled vets. They actually was talking about those people who's on public assistance. They was actually talking about people who actually needed negotiated lower healthcare premiums and lower medication premiums. Like they were talking about all those people, not just you, not just the transgender. And it's like these people keep falling for the culture war, not understanding that you're still part of that culture war yourself. You're not aside from it. Yeah, that is also true. Starlink and all that kind of other stuff. And it's like people are okay with fascism. They don't understand how anything works. Let's keep going.
All the offensive and defensive coordinators, like the whole thing needs to be redone. And that what that means is a very scary proposition. That means like a lot of the stuff that we hold on to, that we call our identity, we need to be willing to let go because it's just stuff that's kind of holding us back. You know, so I'm going on too far with it. Like that's sort of my thing. I think people don't know how to do politics and don't know how to say I need to have something if you want my vote. I have to get this thing. So that's it.
Hey, Drama Bear.
Yeah, hold on, wait a minute. I need to cover these two super chats. Oh. Thanks for the two super chats. I already displayed them. So let me give you a couple of these. Where's that? Here we go. Hold on, wait a minute. Let's do a little bit more. There we go. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. You better thank your donors. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. You better thank your donors.
What is going on here?
To sum up what you were saying, let me say it this way. Alexa, we played What Have You Done For Me Lately by Janet Jackson.
Was that shit meant to be funny or?
Take it back.
Well, I got something the Democrats have done for you lately. They've said this.
Do something. I'll take a bit of umbrage here. I'll speak on behalf of my colleagues. I think I can say we are all willing to work with anyone who's serious about doing the work of censoring the American people and advancing progress.
Again.
So you're serious about censoring the American people, and
like
you expect somebody to vote for you.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up that particular clip because if you go back to newspapers like New York Times 25 years ago, for example, they actually have an article written by, I forget this guy's name. They used to be the publisher. I think it's something like Schultz or something. I can't remember, but he had like a long article. And back in those times, these organs like them and ACLU, they were very adamant about because they were very much into, because the left used to be very much into free speech at a certain point. And so what you will find is when they were defending the KKK, for example, because when they were saying,
what year was this? Again, there's no modern person in society who's defending the KKK. Okay? There's no modern person who's a Democrat who's defending the actual basis being named after Confederates. This is what I mean by political ignorance, high amounts of it. You're trying to take the actual Democratic Party that was pre-1960s and try to conflate it like it's the Democrats of today. There's no real reason to do that. But if you're around a bunch of, politically ignorant people who don't know that, who just hear the word Democrat, they think bad, and that's what it is. And they don't understand why people would want to not vote for that type of party. It's crazy.
why the KKK should be able to say what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
They use the argument that it strengthened America to act.
You know that's a conservative talking point, right? This is not a liberal talking point. He's lying right now.
Actually let people like this say what they wanted to say publicly. Now there's some I actually agree with certain like parts of that from the simple standpoint. Like, I mean, don't y'all want to know like who's really thinking like that in public? If you're gonna tell on yourself, like I want to see it.
I mean, dude, we seen what? Ferguson, we seen the Charlottesville. Those people were not Democrats. Not even modern ones.
Not even close.
Unreal.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's me. I mean, I just like it's the people that's hiding it. It's the people that's hiding it that I got a problem with. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
So there's some truth to that. You know what I'm saying? But if you can say that the First Amendment can be applied to that particular type of group to prove the legitimacy of why you have the First Amendment in the first place, I'm cool with that. But then when you come back, man, 20, 25 years later, man, and you get to censoring people on social media and stuff like that for just merely questioning, you know what I'm saying, certain policies.
What policies? Okay, if the year right now is 2025, and he's talking about 20 to 25 years ago, that would be the year 2000. I think it's the same people who talked about free speech were the same people who's doing that shit right now. He's talking about the conservative movement, but he's trying to conflate it like it's the modern day Democratic Party. That's not true. Categorically not true. I don't understand how it is that you can walk around in broad daylight and not understand that what you're against are actually modern day conservatives and conservatives back then, not modern day liberals, and definitely not liberals back then. You have a very consistent enemy throughout history, and it's not the people that you say, Rael. To go.
You have laid that out absolutely correct. That's the history. You have to follow that. You cannot be talking about this ahistorically either and following it up from that time. This is what's been going on, and it's been very consistent. And no, a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that for their
I got a question.
talking
Do you
points.
remember when Barack Obama came in office and he said that he was going to cut out all the apparatus that it took to actually get rid of discrimination and the actual? I don't remember Obama doing that shit within 1 week of being in office. I don't recall Barack Obama doing that. I don't recall Joe Biden doing that. But I do recall Donald Trump doing that shit within the first week of him being in office. DEI is some shit that the Republican Party came up with. So that way they wouldn't teach history in schools. Like, this is the shit that I don't get. It's like his enemy is conservatives, but he keeps conflating it like it's modern day Democrats when it's always been conservatives. I don't get that shit.
Yeah, follow history, but see, guys like him don't acknowledge. They don't acknowledge that. It's to keep a certain talking point going.
Oh, of course, yeah. Let's keep going.
Like now you're full of crap now because like if especially from a black person standpoint, because we know what the KKK represented like for us as a group, and then you have when you have people like Biden and Obama who gave a eulogy at Robert Byrd's freaking funeral, a known KKK member, bro. Like, and then you say, oh, this is their reasoning for giving the eulogy is to bring about a healing on the American conscience.
At the time when he joined, he switched. You know why he didn't switch, and it's like the whole idea that we just gotta go from not understanding American history to Senator Byrd. It's just crazy. What state is Senator Byrd from? Exactly. What state is Senator Manchin from? Exactly. Do you really think, even though they did fight with the North in the Civil War, West Virginia did cede from the actual Virginia during the actual Civil War, but those people are deeply fucking conservative. There's
Yeah,
nothing liberal about West fucking Virginia. Nothing at all.
nothing. I mean, it was created, during that period to actually go against the Confederacy, if you will. But that state was created out of Virginia, and those people are Virginians. they, they, they've been very, they've always been very conservative, and few black people were there as well.
Yeah, I mean he'll probably be at home there. So
something that's stained the American conscience for years, like all that mumbo jumbo, and then you're coming over here and you're saying people with podcasts and stuff like that. Oh, when they disagree with your policies, everything is misinformation or disinformation. Like, man, get out of here with that nonsense, bro.
Right.
Because it is. I mean, you have to realize because it is. Like this whole DEI shit, it came in talking about what they thought was legitimate things when the only thing they wanted to do was just stop teaching American history. The same bullshit that they was doing throughout history. The same shit that the Confederate Daughters of America has been fighting for. Not the sons, daughters have been fighting for. But at the end of the day, we got to talk about these historically less people about things that they know that they're conflating.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing of the lost cause. That was all about, making sure, that certain levels of history were if not erased, obfuscated in some type of way, and bring out a whole new narrative, such as the South it went about slavery. The Civil War went about slavery. It was about taxes. You have idiots jumping out here trying to make those types of claims that were debunked. That were debunked over 150 years ago. But yet, when you bring up the facts and so forth, this misinformation is still trying to be expressed through through ridiculous kinds of excuses such as the moral tariff and and so forth, which these people don't even fully understand. But yet they bring this up to obfuscate the facts that slavery is what caused the Civil War. So you have people
you
still
literally
fighting.
had a dude talk about the Civil War wasn't fought over slavery. Yeah.
I mean, you ran
authoritarian, and
right.
That's the whole mind f of this whole thing. It's because everything about it's. I wouldn't even call it left, right? Because you're right. I'm very much more liberal, but that doesn't mean I'm crazy. And there, I don't believe in rule of law and a bunch of stuff, right?
But who the fuck you think don't believe in the rule of law? You're very much liberal, but you're talking about this illiberal shit. You're defending.
What they're doing is essentially an authoritarianism, but we're at this level where
what party has been told that they are authoritarian when Trump is in office?
Everyone is the problem with this new generation. I don't want to say the problem, but with Gen Z and everyone is they're too stuck on aesthetics, right? Like the idea of an abstract
identity
politics.
Justice.
Like abstract things don't really matter to a lot of people. What matters is like how it looks, how it feels right now, how it looks, right? And so because they're saying I feel scared, and they're putting on this face as if they're weak and they're being nice and this and that they aren't authoritarian, but really they are. They want to silence all opposition. They don't want to have real conversations, and if they can't silence you nicely, they will try to cancel you. They'll try to get you fired. They'll SWAT you. They'll do all types of things to you, right?
Well, wait a second here.
How many left-wing people have you heard swatting people? Man, what the fuck?
You mean like Paul Pelosi who got swatted?
Yeah.
Or had his his address put out there, and on one of these manosphere yo-yos went up to his house and clocked him across his head? You mean like Ilhan Omar when they showed up to her house? You mean like AOC when they showed up and were harassing her? You mean like Ayanna Pressley when they ran up on her and she had to get her own personal security because congressional members don't get security like that? They don't get Secret Service protection? Like, what are we talking about here? All of this started under this administration, or at least the first administration from 2017 to 2020. So where's all this coming from?
And the problem is that if they just, the only thing it takes is one question. What year are you referring from, and what year are we talking right now? Because authoritarians have been accused of one administration, not the same administration over and over. I don't get how they just do not understand history. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just
character assassination.
Character assassination, the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what political correctness is all about, by the way. But let's not forget you have authority.
Who talk about political correctness? Is it the left or the right who talks about political correctness? Again, completely confused, trying to attach themselves to the conservative cause by using their fucking talking points when it doesn't even apply. And this is how come you can't really talk to these individuals, because they have nothing to say that you can actually verify.
Theories of both sides. Let's go back to post 9/11.
Oh yeah, because we had it with Bush.
Yes, we had it with Bush. Yeah.
we sure did.
Let me. Who remembers this? What was one of the best ways they would use if you dissented, if you spoke out against the Iraq War? What's the first thing they would say to shut you down? You don't support the troops?
Yep.
Do you love America?
So your brain does work. You do remember when the Bush administration was doing that to people. See, this is what I mean. He goes back to a Republican modern example of things that is currently happening, but he don't want to think that it's the same people. Where's the liberal example?
America? Oh, you're siding with the terrorists.
You're unpatriotic.
You're unpatriotic. Y'all remember the Boondocks episode where MLK comes back from the dead?
Mm-hmm.
And in that interview he did.
Oh my gosh! I saw the clip. I saw the clip. He said, "Would you niggas please shut the hell up?" I was like, "Damn, I felt that one."
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. I know.
No shit. Let's play the second one, man. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, they came here to squat on progress. They didn't come here to actually change anything. They came here to side with the very people that are doing every single thing that they claim that they're against, which is crazy. Go to the second video. Let's see if
like a bull in a china shop. He don't care.
I told y'all buckle up. You know, before January 20th, it was after January. Oh shit! What the fuck?
Yep.
Everybody say.
So now you have to see what they predicted since the first week. Before we go to the next video, this is what these people were talking about in the first week. This is before all the firing. This is before Doge. This is before all that shit. This is before shutting down parts of the government. This is what these people were talking about. It's vitally important to understand what they were talking about.
He's only been in 8 days.
Now they're crying about his approval. Trump's approval rating is the lowest it's been. I'm like, oh, come on. He barely been in for 2 weeks, and you worried about his approval rating, really?
Yeah, they're gonna try. They try to hang everything on him that they can, man.
Apparently, the Democrats have a new head of the DNC.
Oh, do they? Who is it?
Some dude last name Martin. I don't give a shit. Some white dude. I don't know.
Oh, back to white. Oh, no more DEI, huh?
Yeah.
He'll need a white man. You better thank a white man.
Yeah, it sounds like he's gonna be the same kind of mealy mouth piece of shit, you know.
We'll see.
Oh, we'll see. But he sounds like one of them above the fray. I hate that shit. Above the fray, motherfuckers.
Oh, like what's his name? From Minnesota, huh?
What's his name? Yeah, he is from Minnesota. He's like the chair of the Minnesota Democrats.
Okay, yeah. He's gonna have to tell Trump ordered schools to ease sexual assault rules. Man, he ain't playing.
What?
Yeah, basically he's going in on Title IX. Remember the dear colleague letter that
Who the fuck would say that out of their mouth? He's going to ease sexual assault rule. What the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck said that? Who the fuck said that?
I'm not. Oh man.
Obama put out 2011 with all the sexual harassment and Me Too
Yep.
shit. Okay, he rescinded all that.
Okay, we are now a month in. Have you rescinded all sexual assault and Me Too allegations from anybody yet? No, he hasn't. He doesn't have the power to do that. He doesn't. I don't understand this.
Thank you, sir, because this one time I had to shout out Dr. Moise Watkins because he was talking about how he had to defend a brother. He was accused of that crap, and he couldn't even face his accuser.
Yeah.
Face to face. I was like, hold on, wait a minute, no. We're not gonna have this shit. If you're gonna accuse a man of that, he has the right to see your face.
You know who actually went in on that? It was actually mothers of these sons that were accused.
Yeah. Shout out to Betsy DeVos. She went in on that shit.
Yeah. Under Trump won. Now he was nice about it then. He's not nice about it anymore. So I told you he's not gonna be nice this time.
He's on a mission.
Yeah.
He's giving you hell to pay. Mm-hmm. And I'm like this, I'm not surprised. That's why BlairCon is gonna be very interesting this year. Mm-hmm. I bet you half the motherfuckers ain't gonna speak to me. Well, you get rid of DEI, this other stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah, well.
He told you he was gonna get rid of it.
I'm like,
whoa. Pause it right
there. Man, look.
Oh boy.
BlurredCon is a DEI conference.
Okay? It is.
It's a black nerd conference because it's a DEI conference. Like I don't understand how that's to be celebrated as you're for BlurredCon, but you're against DEI. Make it make sense, man.
These are confection sugar chocolate donuts, man. That's what these motherfuckers are. Keep going.
Man, when the fuck did we get DEI?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to tell Uwe last night. I said, well, they're gonna blame it on black people. I said, well, it's time for all this.
Yeah, but here's the problem with DEI that they don't get. DEI is not an initiative that's exclusive to uninformed, pig ignorant people. They have to keep expanding the program to keep it alive because people couldn't create children that would actually fill those slots. It's kind of like when Medicare first started, Medicaid first started, Social Security first started. It started because of whites, and it was exclusive to them when it first started. And then they expanded it to everybody else. But rather than learn the history of that, things just have to be for black people and black people alone throughout history and nobody else. Dude, that's just not how that shit works, man. God, it's not hard to even get or understand, but you keep running to the same Daniel Spear problem, man.
The thing here is DEI is technically from a labor standpoint, it's about labor capacity, labor utilization. From an economic standpoint, it has a lot of merit because if you don't have black people under in the 1940s under what's his face what's the labor organizer Nagone from the
from the 1940s. What?
Yeah, from the sleeping car porters.
A. Philip Randolph.
Yeah, A. Philip Randolph. If it wasn't for A. Philip Randolph advocating for having more black men are part of the military-industrial complex to help maximize the output of tanks and was it B-21s back then, or was it B-21s or anyways, and all of your P-51, sorry, your P-51s and whatnot, you would not have gotten the war to a halt. Your labor capacity was low, so you needed black men to join that to go up to Michigan and all these other places to help with the labor manufacturing output back then. That was the only way they were ever going to produce all those tanks and all those weapons and whatnot. That I don't understand, man. The lack of understanding of American history is really frightening in this space. There's a lot of people.
Consistent lack of understanding.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the space who just don't understand that DEI isn't just this one thing. It happened over a span of time. People were
wanted to
advocating.
just pack it up after black people, and they wanted to pack it up, and that's just it. And it's like, dude, it's never going to stay that way.
No, 40% of your highway system, your federal highway system, was created by black labor.
Yes.
40% of it. So the idea
and there still
that
is no north and south highway through Mississippi.
All the highway from Seattle, Minnesota, that goes all the way up to Alaska, that 40% of that was done by black men. I don't think people really understand the significance of what DEI really represented, for black people in a segregated society, in an apartheid system. That it made a lot of sense to start and that's why Truman desegregated the military, right?
Yeah.
It didn't make a whole lot of sense to have a segregated military. It was unsustainable. So I don't even want to go into it because I don't want to get on my soapbox. But when I hear things like that, it's just like they always think about DEI as some left-wing thing. And this is like, how did you get black progress without leftist things? Black people were the left and are the left. Anti-slavery, anti-apartheid, anti-inequality, pro-civil rights, pro-justice system. There's so many areas that make up what the left is, and a lot of these guys, well, I'm not really on the left. Well, what the fuck are you? You're in the black manosphere. You support an 18-point agenda, but you're not on the left. Like, man, if you don't get the fuck out of my face,
I mean, that's
Jesus.
That's purely a absolutely
18-point agenda with blackmail only reparation.
That is literally the face of a liberal, if you will, or I would say more of a for black people more of a progressive agenda. That's what that is. And black people have been the progressives of this country. We have been. Even the newspapers and so forth that were out, talking about lynching back, at the turn of the century, where people were afraid to talk about it. Some black presses were afraid to bring that up because they might lose their readership, and some did, but some other papers literally had to speak out about it. So those are your more liberal papers, if you will, then talked about being lynched. These types of things. Very, very, very important stuff. That's our legacy. But you have these people here somehow not acknowledging that or not understanding that, and taking the positions they're taking now, saying this is.
Yeah, I'll go with not understanding. Deliberately not understanding it. But let's keep going.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad.
Oh, it's funny. Black Uber said that because there was a Mexican dude trying to say, but we don't need black people to have it. And he fucked around and found out he had apologized and got off a TikTok afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about that.
I was like, oh, okay. My response to him was simple: kick rock. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Get deported. I don't want to hear shit. I'm like, okay, you don't need our help. Fine.
Yeah.
Get deported, motherfucker.
Yeah. Now they want the black school teachers to protect the kids. As I was saying, they're not after the kids anyway. What they do? They're trying to find the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the kids want to stay, they have to go into foster care.
Yep. Yeah, did you see all them teachers talking about if ICE comes here, I'm gonna protect my students.
Yeah, you're protecting your jobs because the kids go, your job's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
They know that.
That's my shit.
But if ICE wants to come up in that school, there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it.
You could go fight them. You could go get arrested.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If they want to, I mean, they're there to check records. They're not really to drag students out. Okay.
Hey, what's the deal with Brandon Johnson, man? What's wrong with that dude, man?
The single mom guy. Is that the guy?
No, he's mayor of Chicago.
Oh, tax receipts.
Oh, that'll do it.
And you know what? I was trying to tell him, if you pay for it, we'll let you have them. Go talk to your voters.
Ooh,
I know federal funds.
I can tell you that's gonna go over like a lead balloon because them people are pissed.
Yeah, the black one already pissed. In fact, you know what? We're gonna cut out all Section 8 in Chicago. Mm-hmm. We don't know where it's going. Go talk to your black women now.
Ooh, go talk to Tiffany here. Find out where that money's at. Oh, let me shut up.
Oh gosh. You see the fight she was having, man, during the council meeting.
Yeah, I saw that.
End of the day, man, it just always come down to trolling some random black women as the reason why they're talking about modern politics. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really do anything. But that's just where we at,
Yeah,
man.
that was like yo, ghetto bitch, you know.
I mean,
Was she actually fighting?
yeah, she was
Yes.
fighting. Yeah, she was fighting. Yeah,
Yes,
wig and all.
This is what they was talking about in week 1. So let's go for this last clip here. And then we're gonna have our closing comments about how, without modern political participation, that Rael wants to actually have this black renaissance of things actually operating for black people without political actual participation. You got to get these dudes on the record, because if you don't believe in political actual participation, then you're just not part of the process. Period. And yes, you get to say all that bullshit from the South where you're not required to do anything, which is the reason why most of these people are down there anyway.
What does everyone think?
like a bull in a china shop. He don't care.
I told y'all buckle up. You know, before January 20th, it was.
Should look like, and I mean, same thing with people in the chat. Like, you know, as succinctly as you can. What is?
All right, when a black person who don't participate in politics start talking about reparations, you have to leave the conversation. You have to understand that most of these people, you have to understand that you're not part of the process. You don't get to talk about things that should have been organized for 30, 40 years ago, and you don't understand how things work. Right? Well, let's hear this crazy nonsense.
Does everyone think reparations should look like? And I mean, same thing with people in the chat. Like, you know, as succinctly as you can. You know, what do you think is fair? What do you think is possible? What do you think it should? What do you think the package should be?
Yeah, Mike. What about the people who are against it? The people who said that they were against it. What administration was there? Wasn't there like a Senate majority leader who said that they wasn't going to bring it up?
Minority whip, that was Mitch McConnell. He said that if the reparations bill comes across my desk, I will veto it.
He said immediately that would not pass. No chance of passing. No chance.
Again, they literally think that they're just going to lean on other states to come through with this reparation bill, and they're just going to disappear in the night with a check. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
I don't know, and at this point, there's, you know, we know they're not going to do anything, so I'm really not trying. I'm not even thinking about it right now. Really, to be honest with you.
Is it even? I mean, I'm on the outside looking in on all this. I'm like, how should I know? It's like, it seems like a Trojan horse, or you know,
it probably is. It probably is.
Brian says money. I get the cut the check argument.
Rayo, if you don't mind me asking, I kind of have to ask. I know some brothers used to rock with don't agree with me, but why are they still trying to defend the Democrat Party? And don't get me wrong, you don't have to agree with me, but I don't get it.
Stupid.
I mean, I never. You can't find one video out here where you see me supporting any of that stuff ever.
Hold on, pause right there. Pause right there. That's not the question. That's not the question.
Man, look.
He didn't ask whether or not you are on video saying anything about the Democratic Party. He asked about why he thinks that we are trying to defend the Democratic Party, which we never did.
I could tell you. I love these type of questions. I live in a different metro area, a very productive area. If you can't produce, your ass don't live here. That's the way it is. Anybody can come here and get their shit together. That training is for everybody. And the people who come here are not the people who stay here. You got to get your shit together in order to live here. At the end of the day, it's for people who want to produce and do better in life. Period. And at the end of the day, there's not a conservative place that offers the same amount of shit on that level. And if you're black and you don't want to do shit, yeah, you're just confined to off Martin Luther King and Colorado Boulevard and fucking 5 Points. That's where you fucking live at. There's no other place for you to live unless you're gonna live in Aurora, 6 to a fucking apartment. 'Cause that's the only way you're gonna be able to afford that 3 times the $1,800 a month fucking rent in hood housing. Okay, you're gonna be living like like the Latinos used to live 25 years ago. It's the only way you're gonna be able to live out there. At the end of the day, you got to make sure that you are a productive person to be here. That's the way those things work. But these people be up all night trolling women and shit. Like, dude, that ain't how that stuff even works. Yeah, let's keep going. Mike, you want me to play that video after we're done here, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. So
I don't get the they're clearly on the decline and something. I don't know if another party's gonna show up or anything, but
Well, I'll say this, man. I've seen the back and forth, man. That's happened, throughout the years, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The Republicans are full of shit too. I'm not here
Oh
trying.
yeah, no, and I'm with you. Like, I'm not.
Then who are you voting for?
Exactly.
Like, no. The Republicans in your state are full of shit. We know who runs your state. It ain't the Democratic Party. You barely have a Democratic mayor. Your state is ran by conservatives, so I don't understand your angst toward the Democratic Party.
You know what it is, MOT? We've talked about this before. They've figured out a way to weave in the gynocracy and the Democratic Party as a political, talking point to justify their position at the ballot. And so when they say that we're defending the Democratic Party, they're basically saying we're defending the gynocracy because they're against the gynocracy and thus they're also against the Democratic Party. But then he says, like he just said 10 seconds ago, well, the Republicans are full of shit too. So why did you vote for him then?
Yeah.
Why did you vote for him? If you support an 18-point agenda, why would you vote for the Republican Party who's against the 18-point agenda?
And why would you stay in a state that is routinely ran by Republicans? Indiana is known as North Mississippi. That's what it's known for.
And for his voting life from 18 to 40, which would be roughly 4 presidents, it's been pretty much conservatively run. You had Mike Pence as a governor, and you had the current governor now, and then you had the other governor before him. So basically, the last 20 years has been run by conservatives. At what point can you blame Democrats for anything in your state? You have a supermajority, or I shouldn't say supermajority, but you have a majority in the House, majority in the Senate, and they run the governor's mansion. How do you explain having an axe to grind against Kamala Harris in November? That doesn't make any sense. Someone has a black male agenda, the other one doesn't. You vote for the person who doesn't have the agenda, and then you complain that no one's doing anything for black men. Unbelievable.
But these are also the same individuals that live in these areas that they know don't work and then expect the rest of the country to modernize so that way they can be included in shit. While they don't help the actual party that they know that they want to be a part of. It doesn't go. Got anything else before we play this?
MOT, oh my gosh, this is I think you opened up. I think you definitely opened this thing up. I appreciate you for having me up and listen. Thank you, man. Thanks.
All right.
I'm not sitting, like, I don't approach politics from a feeling standpoint. It's like Malcolm X said, it's warfare without bloodshed. So that's what it is.
My poison.
Right. So when you approach it from that perspective, like you have, it's a sobering reality. So you gotta think your way through. It's positioning and leveraging and things of that sort.
Right.
And so if you no, I don't care what group of people it is. If you just give your vote away to just one party and you don't make them work for it, and you
Right.
But what is the other party doing
Nigga.
to the one? Like, it's like you don't. Okay, you live in the South. The South is ran by conservatives. But for some dumbass fucking reason, you don't understand.
completely cut off another side that you can possibly do business with, then at the end,
Nigga, are you going to be doing business with conservatives? How?
Conservatives are not even doing business with conservatives right now.
They're not.
I'm still looking for this magical opportunity that's coming from, this administration. Where's it at?
Look, they about to start cutting this funding for HCBUs and all that shit. Like, these people are gonna be looking so stupid like a year from now. A year from now, when that budget comes out, like before the next year for the midterms, like these people are gonna be a no call, no show. Wow.
end of the day, like the party you give your vote to, they don't have to work hard for it, so they don't really take you serious.
Right.
Because you're just literally giving it away. So
That's what it's like voting Republican in the South. That's exactly what it's like.
Or voting Republican in Indiana.
Yeah. Or else voting for Kanye West in California. Or voting third party when you have 2% of the voting count in California.
Right.
Unbelievable. Of course these dumb niggas are coloring in a coloring book. Like, what else you think these dudes supposed to be doing, K Diggy?
they don't have to work for your interests. So they can just tell you things that make you feel good. They can come to your churches, sing songs with you, play the saxophone on your TV shows with your black entertainers and all of this type of stuff. Like, but when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of things, like, I mean, we gotta keep it real, man. Like, for all the talk that a lot of black people love to give about civil rights,
Black people were doing pretty well under fucking Clinton. I'm sorry. There's not a Republican administration where black people was doing pretty well like there was under Clinton.
You had a surplus coming out of the Clinton administration going into the
Yes,
Bush
you did.
administration.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that talking point.
But see, you could talk this type of shit in front of people who don't understand politics, period, or anything else. You just anti-democrat, whoever who. But you want to live in these liberal areas, and you want to live in the South where shit ain't happening, and you don't want to hold the conservatives responsible for anything. It's called whack a word. Oh. There may be a furlough in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Trump has a budget proposal for federal government. He wanted massive layoffs. Where's the opportunity in that? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bro, they're laying off disabled white veterans. Disabled white veterans, and these people are like, yeah, well, Doge is good. Like, don't you understand? Doge is another way of just walking in and just shutting down federal agencies and kicking career-minded people out of their jobs. But I am convinced that these are not career-minded individuals. They're just anarchist, stupid-ass people who just want to see the world burn. Because guess what? It's turnkey, but it ain't turnkey for me. So I'm just gonna pretend like I'm on the other side and just burn it to the ground. It's like, bro, that's not how that works. You still have to justify where you are living at. You are living most likely in a non-productive society that doesn't do anything for its people. And a lot of people have internalized this shit to the point to where they hate people from functional societies, where things actually do work, where they actually do participate in the political process and things work for them. That's where the real anger and hatred come from, is because they can't be able to monetize or take advantage of the things that you've done in your area. So they just keep pretending that politics ain't important. It's crazy talk. Crazy. Literal crazy talk.
the people who don't benefit the most from civil rights is the people who actually fought for it.
Right.
So
God damn, don't you fucking understand? The people who is the other side of the people in the civil rights movement? Yeah, they were the water hose niggas who was water hosing the fuck down out of black people. Those are the people that you pretending are some decent fucking people. And the people who fought for civil rights are the fucking coons. That doesn't make any sense. Mike, you got anything? We'll keep going.
I can keep going.
When you look at it from that perspective, black leadership has some questions to answer. Like, you can't ask to be in a leadership position, and then when you fail, if you fail, like, you just like, well, let's just keep doing what we've been doing. Like, nah, that ain't gonna happen. Like that, you can't do that in the private sector. If you took that kind of model in the private sector with a business, you're gonna go bankrupt. You're gonna be out of business soon.
Easily.
Because you got to deal with them. You got to deal with the market forces. So the reality is like for a lot of people who had a lot of rah-rah before the election and talking this, like, pulling up and we'll drop the link and, all this type of stuff. Like, yeah, that's fine. But your party got shellacked.
Yes, badly.
Like,
and how did you benefit after that shellacking happened during that first week? How did you benefit? How did they benefit? I don't know how they benefit. You see, you're supposed to fight for them and on the behalf of them, even though they don't even mess with your party, mess with your side, they don't participate, they tell you that they're never gonna vote for you, and then they expect all this shit out of you. Literally not how the process works, man.
I mean, there's just no way to get around it, dog. Like, I mean, it's just like anybody with a brain, like, see, you got your ass whooped. Like, your party lost. You don't have the majority on the Supreme Court. You better watch out for Sonia Sotomayor, because if she got to retire because of diabetes, because she ain't looking too hot, that's another one.
7-2. You know those that the actual 7-2 isn't for your actual favor, right? So if you're not for the actual other liberals on the court, where are you gonna go? If you want all this progress, you understand the people who are the problem. How are you going to be able to have things that are different than what's here now? We understand it's a conservative problem. The judiciary is actually the problem.
He gonna get in there. The Senate. I mean, once McConnell get out of there, I mean, they not even playing. They gonna get some hardcore dude in there. He ain't gonna be no rhino. So the House.
Again, it sounds like you're pretty fucking conservative and pretty much okay with what the Republican Party is doing. I don't see how you could be complaining about the Democratic Party at all. But as with most people who hide behind the black identity, they actually don't even care about black progress. They care about black stagnation. They want the Republican Party to be in charge doing all this shit. They're definitely not fighting against it.
I mean, it's in Republican control. And now you're 4 years out of, like, not getting the funding to fund all of the BS programs that you've been using to propagandize people with.
Right.
So now your major power mechanism, which was the funding, which is what all this USAID stuff is really all about, because now people are able to audit and now they get to see the books.
It's not people. They had people there. It was called the Inspector General. He fired the heads of independent personnel who oversaw that shit to bring in a billionaire and new people who don't know how anything works to be the people who actually oversaw that. We had an actual apparatus that oversaw all that shit. But they don't even care about that.
Yeah.
And so now they can see the books. Now they can see where the money's been going and see, like we saw before the election,
$2.7 trillion in misappropriated Medicaid and Medicare funds, not in the United States, but overseas.
Overseas, yes. So,
and they had to revise those numbers because those numbers were obviously fucking false.
Yeah, and there's no, and the thing here is, there's no transparency in what Doge is doing, so you don't know what they're telling you is true or not, but you believe it's true because it's Republicans telling you it, right? But what people don't understand, USAID is 1%, if not less than 1% of federal spending. But you're concerned about that, but you're not concerned about all what Brett Favre did in Mississippi. Okay. All of the corruption down there, all the fraud, waste, and abuse that goes on with the welfare spending down there. You're not concerned about that, even though there's text messages to support all of this. You think that the Trump DOJ is going to bring Favre to justice? I don't think so.
And here's another thing that people don't get. Most medication in this country was created with taxpayer money. And then we can't even get discounts on that medication. And corporate America just come through and buy the patents right off the fucking government when the government created the shit for free. Like, if you're serious about fraud, waste, and abuse, there's two places to look: the pharmaceutical industry and the Defense Department. If you're talking about something else outside of that, then you're not even talking about fraud, waste, and abuse. Period. But these people know that they're talking to a bunch of people who don't know what's going on. They just want to benefit and they don't want to participate. And everybody knows it and everybody sees it.
So now you got a whole different, like, I mean, I've been studying politics, man, since I was in like high school. So we've never had this opportunity where the government is actually being audited. I don't think people really understand.
That's what inspector generals are for.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know what inspector general was, we're not inspector gadget, inspector general. You've been studying politics for this long, but you didn't know what inspector general was. That's their job.
And if you fired them all at the same time, and you let a defense contractor who profiteers off of this shit in there in place of them, how do you think that that's not going to be an increased cost to the government? But they got to pay for this $1 trillion tax cut one way or the other, right?
And like how powerful that really is. You can say what you want to say about who's doing it, but they had more than enough opportunities, man, to do it themselves. They had Clinton in there for 8 years. They had Obama for 8 years. They had Biden for 4. So you had opportunities where you could have actually done it yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you didn't. So now he got the upper hand. So now it's like, okay, like if you ain't doing nothing wrong, you shouldn't even be worried about anything, honestly. So I just think that we just in an it's an unprecedented kind of, you know what I'm saying, environment because people like even like
it's an unprecedented environment because you don't understand what the fuck is going on. And you're trying to make it look like these things are positive because you don't have an identity, you don't have a track record, you don't have a history, you don't have any type of anything for any side, but you're not going to vote for a Democrat and you're definitely not going to actually organize with the actual conservatives. None of this shit makes any sense.
Ron Paul, man, he when he was in Congress, he was pushing for audit in Fed, like, man, for years.
Yep.
So,
and Ron Paul won how many elections nationwide? The actual conservative was never fucking paid attention to by the Republican Party because they wasn't on that shit. So much to the point to where he had to get the fuck out of there.
So like this is not something that Republicans have not been wanting to do. They've been wanting to do stuff like this. They just could never get what they have now. So now, it's balls to the wall. And so like,
thank you for admitting that. This is always shit that they always wanted to do. This is not Trump shit. This is shit they always wanted to do, but didn't have the gall to fucking do it.
For all the people who, if you're grifting, you're probably going to get exposed. And I think that's why a lot of people are.
That's why a lot of hit dogs are hollering.
Yeah. So,
but let me play a little clip from Brianna Joy Gray. She sums up what Democrats think about black people.
Before you play that clip,
you see, they have to play a black woman talking and then respond to it because they don't know how to do a political analysis.
Speaking of the exposing, Elon Musk exposed that Google says there's been an uptick in Google searches in the DC area about how
Yep.
to receive.
I saw that.
Unbelievable.
About what?
How to receive immunity.
Yeah. Yeah. A whole bunch of houses got sold, and that Google search going on right now. But anyway,
searches, Google searches in DC for criminal defense attorney
Yeah,
has been up 500%.
Wow.
But let me go on and play.
At the end of the day, man, it's time to get these dudes on the record about how do we get progress. If you're bragging about these conservatives being in office, which is fine, it's time for you to take your ass over there and go get some actual benefits from you actually being over there. Mike, you go?
He did on the money there. Progress, benefits, they've shown nothing. Only thing they've had is a great time talking about how they won, but have nothing to show for it. So I don't know what that's all about. I've yet to figure any of this out.
Me neither, because at this point, you got to be like, look, you're obviously not a Democrat. You have to go organize with the other side. Right now is the time to organize for the side that your ass is actually on. There is no real reason for us to be shouldering the conversation about politics. Because if you want to go to middle of the road and libertarians about left wing shit, then what the fuck are we even doing here? At the end of the day, you don't want to organize on the right, even though you're celebrating everything that they're doing on the right, even though you know that they're doing all this shit against black people. So, hey, look, you got to go out there and you got to prove your actual point of how we get the actual success that we actually need.
They
so
have
if you don't want to, okay, so if you don't want to acknowledge history, you want to pretend like the Republican Party has been the party of social change for black people. Hey, man, ball's in your court. You got to go organize with your people.
They haven't tried to organize with them about anything. They haven't brought anything up to them. Reparations and all that stuff off the table. They don't even talk about that. They talk about none of these things. That 18-point agenda you're talking about, where did that ever? None of this stuff is over there at this stage. None of it.
Man, all that shit is like a blackmail ghillie suit. Like, people don't even understand the bullshit that's being floated around their fucking head because they refuse to learn about the simplistic process, which is actually politics, and they don't want to get their hands dirty or involved. And they deliberately misunderstand the specific points of the process because they don't want to be invested or involved or admit that they're wrong about not having progress. So, you got any last words here, Mike? We'll get up out of here.
I think we had that one video. That was.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Private. Here. Oh God. And as usual, there is another black woman on screen because they can't do politics without referring to randomized black women about shit. So let's see what's going on here.
What does everyone think?
Oh, so let me get that off here. Oh, second. Off. Share screen. Again, this is their actual depth of knowledge about political anything.
Go ahead, brother.
Peace to both of y'all. Peace to the chat. One of the things I was with Complex I was covering before I left the Brain Trust was this conversation or this topic about the Black intelligentsia, and it's funny how that topic, along with the conversations we had about Booker T. Washington, is really starting to rear its head, because this is not something this is nothing new. This is something that we've been dealing with for the past 100+ years. It's just now a lot of Black people are starting to wake up to who has been the so-called stewards of Black leadership, which really have been the most incompetent and ineffective leadership that we have ever had as Black people. I'm gonna make that very clear. The present day leadership apparatus that Black people currently have has been the most incompetent, feckless, inept, quote unquote leadership that we have ever had
as opposed to what the fuck were you doing? You live in the South. You're never gonna vote Democrat. All of the Black leadership is in the Black, the Congressional Black Caucus. So who the fuck are you talking about?
the group of people. I know a lot of people will say, well, what about the people that helped, that contributed to us getting in slavery? Well, even in slavery, man, we still built shit. We still created shit in slavery. Okay, to the point that we helped America actually develop into a world power. There is no America as without the contributions of the Black business class, the innovators, the inventors. There is no America without us. And unfortunately, the pseudo intellectual class has really pulled a fast one on Black people. On the one hand, they have postured themselves as being the type of people that are speaking on behalf of Black people to help Black people advance. But the reality is that their whole ideology is centered around a grievance. And if you look at any of our history of the great, Black people were never seeking things based on a grievance. Black people were making moves even in spite of some of the most harsh conditions. Black people were still doing great things. And
hold up. So reparations isn't about a grievance? Reparations isn't about a grievance at all, right? But see, this is what I mean by people who just don't understand history, run their fucking mouth. Everything that he's talking about, the conservative movement in the South are responsible for. Period. And it's always been responsible for. So I don't understand this.
Unfortunately, this particular class of Black people, they got exposed in this past election. And it's about time. It's about time that they finally got exposed for who they are, being people on the take. I was talking to Complex about this a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him there was an interview that Mayor Andrew Young did when he started he started advertising for Walmart. And if you know, around this time, there was a lot of conversations about stores like Walmart who were considered underpaying their employees and stuff like that. It was kind of like a big issue. And so they used somebody of his stature, a so-called Black leader, to come out there and advertise with Walmart. And so when he was being interviewed by this journalist, the journalist asked him, well, what do you think about people who would say that, you're on the take, which basically means like you sold out?
Mm-hmm.
And his response was, it was a wry smile and kind of laugh. And he said, well, everybody's on the take. Now, mind you, this is supposed to be one of your civil rights heroes and all of that.
Okay, so what state is Walmart a part of?
Arkansas.
Who the fuck runs Arkansas?
Conservatives.
When has Black people ever ran Arkansas?
Never.
So you're talking about the largest employer in the United States outside the federal government, who's stationed in an actual conservative state. But somehow you've bent that into thinking that there is something that is anti-Black about it because a person did an actual commercial with them. Please help me understand that.
Yeah. I'm not really following this idea of Black leadership is taking a shellacking this time around. I mean, most of your congressional members and Senate members are still in their positions. I'm not sure what he's talking about. But I want to make sure that I also clarify the opening statement that he left the Brain Trust. He was never a part of the Brain Trust. Just for complete transparency to everyone else, he was never a part of the Brain Trust. We have our established members, and that's what the Brain Trust is. You don't leave the Brain Trust to go over here.
I've never known anybody who left the brain trust who went immediately to hang out with these dudes
to talk about this topic that he could have had a conversation on the brain trust about, but he never did. So who's this black business class that you're talking about? Is it John Hope Bryant? He seems to be doing just fine. What about Robert F. Smith? He seems to be doing just fine. What about Bob Johnson? Seems to be doing just fine. Michael Jordan, doing just fine. All these business people, the black business people that you're talking about, all play golf with each other, seem to be doing just fine. So who's this black business class that you're referring to? And why would you even think to support this new administration who has no interest in black business at all? How logical is this?
Yeah, I really don't understand it. I mean, you have to understand that at some point, you got to provide a pathway to success. Because you're never voting for a Democrat and you live in the South. You got a lot of work to do, bro. A lot of work. So, Amiri, got something to say? Something to add?
Yeah, what's up? What's going on? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're in the car or something.
What's up, Amiri?
Yeah, what's going on? How y'all doing?
All right.
Yeah, y'all know what? Like these individuals like this, man, they get on my nerves, man. These are people who are, you know, they're apathetic.
Yes.
They're not well informed. And the real problem is a lot of these individuals, they're apolitical anyway. So they're going to automatically have a hostile attitude to, like what he was just talking about, the so-called black leadership or black intelligentsia, you know. But the bottom line is a lot of people, they don't even have a proper frame of reference when it comes to actually litigating this stuff. So, for example, you know, they make this false dichotomy between, you know, like being political and also doing for self. But the argument that I make and that I've been consistently making is being political is doing for self.
Yes.
That's the main component. I don't know how you think you're gonna have any type of business success without any type of political activity that's providing the framework for that success to exist. It's like we keep going in this circle, man. And a lot of these individuals, if you talk to them, they've never been to a school board meeting, a city council meeting. They don't know who their state representative is, who their state senator is, let alone who's their representative and senator on the federal level. You know what I mean? And they're sitting here trying to pretend like what's going on with this Trump administration is somehow a win or good for black people or for black men is just bullshit. Nothing that's going on right now is good for us. And I mean, that's obvious. And this
especially after that first week.
Yeah, like the fact that you have so many of these individuals who appear to be confused by what is the real modus operandi and goal of the Trump administration is breathtaking. It's totally an anti-black regime. You know what I mean? They're not putting it in your face in an overt way. So they may say one thing, but they're doing another. You have to look at what they're doing. And everything that they're doing is just like what Roland Martin said. It's about them deconstructing the civil rights framework, which has given us the meager gains we've had. Has that framework been perfect? No, but we would rather have it than not have it. You know what I'm saying? And I've been watching a lot of these, you know, manosphere brothers making content about it and stuff like that, and they're just totally devoid of reality of what's actually happening. And when I talk to some of them, I tell them, like, you realize that this means that your children are going to have less access to opportunity than what you had. Yeah, how are you framing any of this as a win? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, but these are not working class people though, and Mary. I mean, but at least you ran for office the last time around. These people didn't even want to do that. They just pretended the history didn't even exist and just went off and did something else. But they waited till the vote count came in and started complaining about politics. Like before the actual election, this heel turn most of these people did who quote unquote stepped off for whatever reason, there was no analysis about that. They wanted to stay very close to potential progress. And once they seen that the other side had the actual advantage, they stepped off immediately and they took themselves right out of that jack in the box. That's all it was. They're not here to help anybody with anything. The only thing that they're trying to do is take advantage and responsibility of nothing. They're over there on the other side, but they didn't get anything. But a photo op, maybe.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Like, if your complaint with the Democratic Party has been that it's a lot of symbolism and symbolic gestures, and they use the black predicament as a as a backdrop to push for other groups and other movements. Okay, fine, fair enough. But why would you sign up to do the same thing on the conservative side then? Like, why? Like, you're not demanding any substantive change from that side. You know what I mean?
Even
so
though
that's
they're
been
the
your
main ones
complaint.
that's against you about everything.
Exactly. MOT, this is what I try to explain, because they'll say stuff like, man, we've been voting Democrat 60 years, and the person who's saying it is only 30 years old or 40 years old. But what they don't understand is you have a other side that's obstructionist. So they obstruct, and not only do they obstruct, they cheat and they gerrymander and they engage all these tactics and tricks to rig the game in their favor. And then when they get power like they're doing now, they do whatever they can to set us back and to obstruct, man. You know what I mean? And that's just the bottom line. So look, like and a lot of these Republican pundits and talking heads, they know how ignorant just Americans are about politics, but especially our community. So they'll say things like, well, look at y'all communities, or look at y'all cities. These are Democratic run cities, and they're crime ridden, and you got public housing, and it's not very successful, or there's not a lot of economy. But what they ignore is, okay, yeah, we might be in a Democratic city, but the state legislature is a Republican trifecta. So when you're talking about the money, the funding that your city is getting, is coming from a regime and an entire movement of conservatism that wants to obstruct any progress for you. So that the city is limited in what it can do, because it's not getting the same type of money it would get if it was a Democratic trifecta. So even like in Georgia, we all know about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, which was a Republican plan. They loved it when Mitt Romney did it. They loved it when Bill Frist put it together on the federal level. But then once Obama got it passed, they obstructed. And here in Georgia, they're refusing to allow it to be rolled out so Georgians can benefit. So you have a party that's obstructionist. They obstruct anything that a Democrat is going to try and do, just based off of how these parties and their platforms have been constructed for the last 60 years. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and it's been that long, and they keep pretending, and they keep confusing the deliberate history as if that's not the case.
Right. And you know what? I like something you had said the last time I was listening. I think it was last Saturday, MOT. And you was like, you get what you organize. You get what you organize to get. If you're see, a lot of our problem is we think somebody's supposed to do something or give us something out of benevolence. But that's not how politics works. Nobody's just gonna come do something for you just to do it. It's quid pro quo. So you're gonna get what you organize to get. And the fact of the matter is, other parts of the liberal coalition are more organized, more activated, and more engaged than you. All right. Like when I go to a lot of these events, don't get me wrong, you'll see black people there, but they're not there advocating specifically for a black organization or for the black community. They might be there for, they might be an environmentalist, so they're there for an environmental issue. They may be with an LGBTQ organization, so they're there for that. You see what I'm saying? You'll see people from the Latino community, but they're actual Latino organizations. When I'm the only one there who might have an inkling of what I feel like black people need or willing to speak up on the issues that maybe the black community cares about. But in terms of an actual real organization on the ground who's advocating for things that, you know, these individuals are complaining about, you don't see anyone there. But when you go on social media, you find yourself talking to all these political experts and aficionados. You know what I'm saying? And so, look, they finna get everything they've been all this jaw jacking, like the fake pro blacks and all that, the Tariq Nasheeds of the world, and they've been running their mouth. You're about to get exactly what you've been looking for, because with this Trump administration, this isn't your normal standard run of the mill conservatism, man. This is something far to the extreme. So, you know, they finna get what they've been looking for with this administration. Trump and them, this is not good. What this guy is doing is not good for the country. Aside from the racial aspect of it, it's just not good for the country as a whole. I mean, you really have Trump sitting here aligning with Russia. Like, come on.
On national TV.
You're talking about you won. Do you realize that what Trump is doing is flying in the face of the world, the established world order for the last 80 years as we have understood it post World War II? Like, come on, this is not normal what we're dealing with, man. This is far to the extreme.
Let's continue the last couple minutes of the video.
All right.
Wait, what's up, fellas?
It was going around. Sorry, go ahead, man.
Yeah. What's up? Yeah, I want to quickly add to no, Mary made a great point about people may feel like Democrats may take the vote for granted. But here's the thing. I don't think you can make that argument that happened under Biden. I was never really a big fan of Biden when he ran. I didn't want him to run in 20. But I had to say I was shocked at how far to the left he at least governed on issues. I mean, if you look at the number of whether it be black judges that were appointed, I believe he was even higher than Obama. If you look at the number of like black appointees, like black folks within the actual administration, if you look at the amount of contracts that went to black business, I was actually listening for work. I was actually listening to a call about Doge, and they were talking about how basically on the Biden administration, he put the target for federal spending by departments to minority-owned businesses. He put that target at 16%. The statutory rate is 8%, which they said the Trump administration was definitely going to roll that back too. So that's like your 8A programs, things along those lines. And then you've had like the Black Chamber of Commerce come out and basically say, hey, you know, they're going to basically go back to bundling contracts instead of splitting them up. And you're going to see obviously a precipitous fall in black wealth behind this administration, be it the number of employees, although this is the other thing that the Trump administration too, a lot of white people are finding out too how the government works and that Trump doesn't even care about his own voters, because a lot of the stuff that he's proposing, like if his budget goes through, it's going to be a disaster for these rural area hospitals. You already see how he's just indiscriminately firing people just in the probationary period. So all of this is like, to Amir's point, it's not good for even like a normal Republican standpoint. Like, it is throwing out so many norms and so many essential functions that people really aren't going to understand until they're gone, because so many people just don't pay attention to like the nuts and bolts and the daily blocking and tackling of government.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
But you know, we know what it is, Renaissance. That's Lee Atwater Southern strategy politics. Like, They really don't care about like these working class whites like that. They just use race as a wedge issue to get them to vote against their own interests, as they're finding out.
Yep. So let's play the rest of this.
And he told the truth.
So-called civil rights.
You know what I'm saying? So again, you know, it just shows you that when you see all these people, you're Roland Martin getting paid this amount of money, you're Sharpton getting paid this money to, first of all, that's not even from a journalistic integrity perspective. You cannot be taking money from a particular candidate and literally say, like, this is who y'all are supposed to support. You have a vested interest in terms of money to actually say that. You're not being objective. And there's no way that anybody that's selling you out.
But we can say this shit when Elon Musk invested $250 million into the Trump campaign.
Or Fox News on the hook, you know, campaigning for Trump and saying that the election was stolen because of the Dominion voting machines. That's why they had to settle out.
$775 million.
Yep.
Totally fine. But
No, I was gonna say, like, I mean, I understand the critique because it is technically a conflict of interest. It's just your alternative can't be the Trump administration because,
yeah,
I mean, corruption is just off the hook with this administration. It's wild. Like,
the coin of the realm is corruption.
Yeah, I mean,
open air corruption.
I mean, literally, I saw something today where it's like the SEC dropped charges against this Chinese billionaire, I think, because he had spent like $30 million with Trump's company in this whole crypto meme coin thing. Like, I mean, that's how this is working right now. Like, if you are anybody who's got any sort of investigation going on, like, it's, hey, can you make a donation somewhere for this or that? Or, you know, like Trump's raising money for his like presidential library or whatever. Like, that's literally what this administration is at this point.
And you can't guess the criminal intent because, you know, Supreme Court took that out, you know, for you even trying to guess the obvious actual intention of said donations. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Citizens United. I don't hear these guys talking about that, though.
A very specific party who actually made that law.
That's because they don't know about it. Like, again, they don't even know what that is, Mike, because these are people who are apolitical. They just running their mouth because it's the end thing to do. That's why you only see them talking about politics when it's on a presidential level. But they don't know what they hear you say Citizens United, they're gonna think that's a soccer team or something. They don't know what that is.
No, they think Citizens United is LGBTQ. That's what they think it is. Finish playing, MLT.
All right, let's keep going here.
Can ever present themselves as being objective. If you're part of any affiliation, any groups that's taking money from political candidates, what you're supposed to do is put that out as a disclaimer. So people know, like, okay, well, the reason why you're saying this is because you've been paid. So we can't really take you seriously as somebody who is really giving out the right information. And so from that alone, I mean, it's to the point that you have a church, a Christian organization that has literally asked MSNBC to actually suspend Sharpton for this.
Actually, they retracted their cowards.
Well, what they did at first, but it was the right move because, again, this is not something that you can't minimize or diminish how important something like this is, because when Black people are trying to look for, you can't sit there and say, well, the Republicans are shady because they're trying to ask people to get a voter ID to vote, and then at the same time, you literally have this administration sue Youngkin in Virginia to allow people who are legally not able to vote to stay on the road to vote.
Now hold on a fucking second, bro. That was a very specific case at a very specific time, which is the reason why they threw it out. He did that shit within 90 days of a fucking election. 90 days. 90 days of an election. He did it within 90 days of an election, bro. Tried to get people off the rolls, and it's like, you don't understand. Glenn Youngkin is part of what party? Glenn Youngkin is not for your actual benefit, sir. But you're using Glenn Youngkin as an actual example of what and for what reason.
And what he's saying is not true. You can pull up the case, and it's not true what he's saying. Okay, what they were suing for was the federal portion of it that Virginia is supposed to abide by. You're not supposed to do that within the final 90 days, and that's what Youngkin did. And so the idea that they just did it because Biden told them to do it, that's not how it works.
Unreal.
Yeah. I was gonna say the other thing too with the disclosure, because I think I do remember this. Like Roland Martin came up and said, I think he didn't get a ton of money. I think he got like $300,000 or something like that
for the advertisements, though. Renaissance, for the advertisements, not in his pocket. For the advertisements, for the ad space. No different. Yeah, no different than what these guys on Fox News were doing in OAN and News One and all that, and Newsmax and all that stuff. So
yeah, well, I was gonna say too, but then he was also saying, because I remember this went viral on the internet, because I think it sort of opened up the discussion. There was another black radio station, I believe out of Detroit or something like that, and they were asking, because they had Republicans approach them about, hey, can we run ads on your station? And the radio station owner was like, well, should I do it? Like, what do y'all think? And he was like, hey, you have bills to pay, this and it. And some people are like, no, how would you feel if these people pushing things that are not true or that can be harmful to the community? So I mean, it goes on both sides. I mean, I think it is valid if you really want to have a genuine critique on money and politics and like public disclosure. But like you guys said, Citizens United, and this is something that once again, the reform for something like this is coming from the left. It's coming from Bernie, and there was, I think it was Ro Khanna introduced something this past week that dealt with more transparency and restrictions on campaign finance. So it's a valid critique. It's just the other side is not playing by that rule at all. They're driving through if Democrats are playing in the gray area, Republicans are just straight up driving on the wrong side on the other side of the road on this issue.
I mean, but when you're talking to people who don't know what's going on, and you on a panel with personnel who don't care what's happening, they just want progress to stop. And as long as they stop progress, they can just start trolling this black woman, and that's all that's need to be done. Let's keep going.
And then at the same time, you're putting forth your support for candidates as if they're on the up and up, while you're secretly taking money. Like you're no different than the people you claim are trying to suppress black people's vote. You're not trying to suppress black people's vote for yourself, but you are trying to suppress their vote for somebody, even from another party, or even from your own party if you had an actual primary, to vote for somebody else when they find out you're doing something. Like, just imagine if they had a primary.
Why would you care about the Democratic primary if you're never voting for a Democrat?
And when have you ever seen a primary against a sitting president? Because if I remember correctly, in 2019, it was the GOP decided that they weren't going to have a primary against Trump and Pence when they were in office, which is how you ended up with Joe Walsh trying to run against Trump in 2020.
Unreal.
And they have somebody that came and you had all these people in the field, and then they was like, oh, Roland Martin and them, they was all out here, saying support Kamala, and then it comes out, oh, she paid y'all money to support her. Her candidacy would literally tank in that moment. It would be over. It would be done. So why it's not done now? You know what I'm saying? Like, now, I mean, it's over, but why wouldn't it be done just because she's running against a Republican? No, it should be done too. Like, that's shady. I mean, that's some shady shit. So we have to really understand that it's not the people that are in the know, the people that do their own research and do their own reading, that's the problem. It's the label-like people that's the problem.
Okay. Hey, MOT, I want to say something like what he's talking about right there. I'm gonna tell you what it is with that thing with that money. A lot of these dudes, like Tariq, they jealous. They wish they had got that little bread. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I don't think anybody really believes that the only reason why Roland Martin was supporting Kamala is because she paid him. Like, come on, good and well. Like, I've been watching Roland Martin since at least 2007, and it's just I've always understood him to be a Democrat. You know what I mean? Or at least be aligned with the Democratic Party more than anything. So for him to say, well, that's why he's promoting Kamala. He was gonna support Kamala anyway, whether he got that money or not. That ain't got nothing to do with it. They're just hating and pocket watching because they wish they had got that little bread.
Yeah.
Well, They're trying to argue ethics, Amiri, and they don't really care about ethics because you got a guy with 34 counts, felony convictions under his belt, a guy who tried to overthrow the government, and try to get his own vice president whacked, and has been impeached twice and has 6 bankruptcies. They're not concerned about ethics, okay? They're not concerned about that at all. They're only concerned about ethics when it comes to the Democratic Party and supposed black leadership.
But the other thing is too that's ironic is all the smoke for Roland Martin, because for every all the critiques that people like to lobby at him, I mean, he represents what people say they want, which is, you know, alternative black media. I mean, he said numerous times the majority of people who watch the show are black men. You know, when he left CNN, he's talked numerous times about how, you know, he wanted to go independent and start basically independent black media. So, I mean, if at the end of the day, you know, he's very much a common target in this space of people and their critiques. But I'm like, he's independent black media. If you don't like where he's going, you know, he's always saying, hey, if you give me the funding, we can do this, we can do that, we can launch more shows. But, you know, it's more of a, hey, let's beat up on someone who's probably the most independent black person, like as far as that's visible that we can see, because no one else. I mean, he said explicitly, like the book he wrote, he was like, people in mainstream news won't even let him come on their network to talk about his book, White Fear. So like the rest of these journalists, like you're not going to get even near the level of just critique that Roland Martin can offer because he's independent, but nobody seems to want to support him.
True. Keep going.
People that have been hoodwinked in these hoods in these different cities, who have been ran by ineffective black leadership for 60 some years. Ice Cube talked about this when he was talking about all the mayors that we didn't have in black cities going the past 40, 50 years, and don't seem like we're getting anything out of it. So those people are waking up. That's why they're showing up to the city council meetings with Brandon Johnson and putting on the red shirts and stuff like that.
Because Chicago Red, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, exactly. So they're waking. Those are the people that they got a problem with, because now after the black people in California didn't put the bill up for reparations, they got exposed after they were trying to say, oh, the Republicans, this is not a California is a super majority blue state. There's nothing that any Republicans can do to stop anything to be passed that's for the interests of black people in California. And when it was time to pull that bill up to get that vote, black people, the black politicians, they did not pull the bill up. And when a Republican called their bluff and said, I'm gonna vote to put the bill forward, no other Democrat signed on to bring it up for a vote. So after all that rhetoric in 2020 about reparations, after putting it in a committee and all that silly stuff, we're going to study the issue. After all of that, when it came time to actually vote on it, they didn't even put it up. And this is what they've been doing to black people. They've been hoodwinking black people for the past 100+ years.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Let me respond to that right quick.
But the Republicans, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they had 60. Their excuses always. But the Republicans wouldn't let us do it. Or what is that they said during Build Back Better? That also drove me up a wall. What was it? Parliamentarian or something wouldn't allow them to do something. They came up with all kind of excuses, and I got tired of that crap, man. It's not that I think the Republicans are perfect or like black people. They don't.
I mean, think about this, right? Why?
Yeah, that's it for that clip.
And now this is what I wanted to say about that way. And this is what like agitates me. And because when I was campaigning, I'd be running into this. But you're not doing Democrats a favor by voting. And when it comes to black people, I gotta tell the truth. When it comes to us, that like they think they're doing you a favor. You ain't doing me a favor by voting for me. See, because like these Republicans, these conservatives, they have an agenda. And they have a vision for your community. And they have a vision for your access to education, your access to healthcare. All these things that have a material consequence to your quality of life. And that's what really agitates me, because like he's talking about, but they've been hoodwinking black people. The Democrats have lost market share, so to speak, when it comes to courting the black vote. You are a minority. That them courting you is part of what has led to Republican dominance in national and presidential politics. So even when you hear those assertions and when you hear those charges, it's inconsistent with the political reality. But it's going back to what I was talking about, where they think somebody's supposed to give them something out of benevolence. See, you don't get anything out of benevolence. It's a quid pro quo. Now, when it comes to what he was talking about in terms of the California legislature and reparations bill, my conjecture on that and what my theory is on that is just, to me, it's obvious that Gavin Newsom didn't want that bill put up where he would have to sign it because he's eyeing a presidential run in 2028. So that was for political reasons, but we don't even, they just think they just supposed to do that. But you got to look at what are the political realities and objectives of who all the actors and players are. So it's more to meet the eye when it comes to that. But this thing where black people acting like they doing Democrats a favor, you're not doing Democrats a favor by voting for what's in your interest as a working person, for what's in your interest as a person who want to have access to education, for what's in your interest for a person who wants to have access to healthcare. You ain't doing Democrats a favor. That's why I was saying earlier, with this Trump administration, you Negroes are about to get exactly what you've been asking for.
Well, Mary, I would like to push back just a little bit because this is Gavin Newsom's last term, so he has nothing to lose by signing the bill. But I think what he wanted is a state entity to actually go over the process first, which is what they did not have. The California Reparations Commission was not a state entity. It was outside entity. It was a third party entity. It was a grassroots entity that was doing it. And so I think that that's what what's holding up HR 40 is that you needed that congressional entity to do the process, and they can't get enough votes across the board to get that through the Senate because you need a supermajority. And so that I think that is what was holding it up. Now, why Gavin Newsom may have done it, he said, he doesn't speak on these sort of issues for whatever reason in his statement. But I suspect that is what the problem is, that it did not go through the state board or a state entity to actually be examined. And so maybe he don't want to put his name on it. But I imagine if Bradford ends up running for governor, like they're suspecting, because this is his last term already. He termed out after January. I suspect if he runs for governor and he becomes governor, that he would want to be the one to actually pass it. So he's not fretting over it. So, and he's the one that submitted the bills. So I don't know if you could put it all on Gavin Newsom, but I would definitely think that the only aspect is the ethical aspect of running it through a state state government institution or a state government board, for that matter.
Well, I think also I think it may be two different things in the sense of California had their independent one that they were doing regardless of HR 40, where they were looking at just a state entity paying reparations out. So there's that, and then there's HR 40 at the federal level. So I think it kind of may be two different things in the sense of the issues that it kind of speaks to the point of, hey, you have a state that's actually looking at reparations, and it comes out of California. And I believe in the state of New York looking at something like this too? Or there's been talk of it.
Kathy Hochul, Governor Hochul does have a reparations commission put together, and actually they just posted yesterday that they're digitizing all of the documents of slave holdings. So they're going to put that on the cloud. They're going to put it on the cloud and allow it to be searchable for everybody.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that everybody could trace back their lineage to find out whether or not they've had ancestors that have been enslaved in New York, and that makes it easy to justify the findings. So more transparency.
Okay. But all of that to say though, like once again, like this is happening in blue states, where you're having these discussions about reparations, and then like I said, the federal level. Now I do agree too, Amiri. I do think the element of Gavin Newsom, I think he is well aware because he's also going to have to deal with, Trump's already putting out the misinformation about the fires in California and why they happened. And I definitely think he wants to run for president. So I think he's definitely conscientious in this last few years of his term
I don't
of what's going to be.
Calculation. He could be the governor to sign that And then could you imagine if he was like, say if everything went right with it and he signed that to law, and now he's running for president? That's not going to boost him. That's going to hurt him in the general election in a presidential election against a Republican. Like, say if he's going against J.D. Vance, that's going to hurt him. And this is to my exact point what I was talking about. Like, when you hear a lot of these individuals talk, they talk as if we have some majority that we don't have. You're a minority, man. And when you look at the public polling on reparations, like the Gallup polling, the majority of the country is against it. So, you know what I'm saying? But at least, like what Mike was just saying, if you look at these blue states, at least they're entertaining it. At least you get some traction, you get some movement. These conservatives, they don't want you to have what you got. They trying to take away what you got already. You know, so why even align? How you gonna use reparations to try and disqualify the Democrats when the other side don't even want to hear your ass say rep? If they hear you say rep, they gonna go up. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous, man.
No. You know, a prime example of that was, I don't know if you all saw. Well, I know a few of us talked about it offline, but the Joint Chiefs of Staff, CQ Brown, you know, Trump ended up firing him last week, along with several other people in the high brass in the military. But I actually was looking into the story as to why, because ironically, Trump was the one who promoted him to, I believe it was Secretary of the Air Force or Chief of the Air Force. And then it was Biden who appointed him or nominated him to the Joint Chiefs of Staff position. And they literally said both Hegseth and Trump's problem with CQ Brown was, if you remember when George Floyd happened, he made that it was about a 5-minute video that came out where he was just talking about, you know, his experience of being black and in the military, and, you know, discrimination. And he was just kind of really talking about his own experience. And they said that made Trump mad. And that's why him, as well as Hegseth, wanted to get rid of him. So like that's the extent of like race and how much tolerance they have for it on the right, is if you just have a discussion and talk about your own personal interests, they want to get you out of there.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And look, like a lot of these same individuals who you like in the manosphere or whatever, talking about we winning, they profess to be black male centered, but when you see, you know, Trump and them doing stuff like what they just did to that general you were just talking about, Renaissance, man, it's like a cognitive dissonance. Like, do y'all not understand what's going on with this damn administration, man?
There's only one. I mean, you only have one black person in the cabinet, and it's HUD. Like, I mean, I don't know why it's hard to figure out.
But you know what it is? They're giddy at the prospect of black women being hurt and harmed by this administration, but ignoring how it's going to harm them too. Like, that's the funny. It's just, you know what? It's the same thing. Like, a lot of this stuff, it operates the same way, just on different levels. So like I was just talking about, Republicans are good at using race as a wedge issue when it comes to the white working class to get them to vote against their own interests. And apparently they're able to do the same thing with gender when it comes to these types of brothers. Like, they're just, so long as they can see a black woman get hurt, they're going to be they're happy about it, but ignoring how it's going to hurt them too. Like, that's the crazy part. I could see if Trump was like, you know, we gonna do this for black men, we gonna do, but he ain't got nothing for you either.
Never said anything like that.
That's the funny part. And he's just doing these symbolic gestures that you claim you find so unpalatable when Democrats do. Like, make that make sense.
No, that's exactly what he's done. And the sad part is, you know, I was talking to some people offline, and I think we're heading into a recession. I was reading some Fed data, and they were basically saying, you know, what they're reading right now based on their current data. Now, it can obviously change because you got to get through the whole first quarter. But, you know, they're looking like, if it stays on this track, that GDP, they were expecting, I think, 2.4%. Like, that was their prediction last year. And they were looking like it may be more on track for negative 1.5, which would say, hey, you know, you're entering a recession, which I'm just like, between, you know, the federal workforce that Trump and Elon are literally trying to gut.
Yeah.
And then a recession. I mean, we've already saw what happened to black wealth in the last recession, and black home ownership. And Trump has nothing to even address that. I mean, even his own supporters have started complaining about, like, you know, oh, I voted for him because I thought he was going to be dealing with, you know, the cost of living, and he hasn't done anything about, you know, grocery prices or home prices or anything else like that. You know, it's just been pretty much business as usual for hey, I'm here to serve the elite and the wealthy, and, you know, I might throw you a bone if I'm forced to.
Right, man. As I said, but people, and the funny thing is, people knew what Trump was a known quantity. They knew what they were signing up for. Now, you know, like the realization of Project 2025, it wasn't just fear mongering. This was a real agenda that they want to implement, and now it's starting to hit home for you know, for a lot of people. Like, you know what I'm saying? So look, we had an election, we had a campaign. You already saw what happened in the first 4 years under Trump. Why would you want to try that again? You know what I'm saying? So
Play my
sometimes,
boy.
you know, people gotta feel it.
Say it again. End of the day, once he cuts Medicaid, that's when the fig leaf falls off, and we won't have to do anything at that point. White America will be doing the whole job for us. So with that said, we gotta be able to get out of here because I gotta wake up early in the morning. So, any last words, Renaissance man?
No. Great stream. Great chatting up with you guys. And buckle in. You just got to take this administration every day, day at a time, because the chaos is something else.
I agree. Any last words, Mike?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right. Any last words and gone? You're going once, going twice. All right. So for me, Raya has some explaining to do. Apparently, you're not voting for the Democratic Party. You want to let the Republican Party off the hook with everything that is there. So my question to you is: so how do we get all this black progress when you want to ignore the actual political history and you want to side up with people who actually don't care about our best interests? Yeah, balls in your court, Chief. You don't have an actual platform to talk from. Maybe the Roger Report or Black Men Being Brutally Ignorant or AV Media can allow you to respond to my specific question for you. And that's all we got. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. I'm the man tomorrow. You guys have a really nice rest of y'all night. Make sure you like the video on the way out. Peace.